Hi, everybody. It's Lori and Lawrence and Thomas, and Jake will be here in just a minute. This is the Flat Earth Conspiracy Channel. Thank you for joining us, and hello to everybody in the chat. We are live streaming. And today we have a little sort of spoof that we're playing, which is the whole 33 reasons for why the AE map doesn't work. The number 33 is always associated with the Freemasons. And it's like if you say the word 33, you're a shill. And it's gotten to the point of being kind of crazy dogma because not everybody's a Freemason, not everybody's a shill. And the number 33 is just another number in the numerical count. So I specifically made a meme for the thumbnail on the video. And I'm explaining all this because, you know, it's going to take a matter of seconds before somebody goes, shill, Freemason. I specifically used the color orange. I specifically wrote the text on the meme using 32 letters. And just to show you that how easily that can be misconstrued and blown completely out of proportion. You may think we're shills anyway. We don't really care. But this whole everything's Freemason thing, how many Freemasons do you think actually run the world? And is every single person who's a Freemason in on it and running everything? I mean, it is a ludicrous idea, and it's really time that it's gotten to the point where it's just ridiculous. So, hi, we're playing with numbers, we're playing with colors, but at the same time, this is a very serious show, because we do actual presentations and research and discuss flat earth ideas, theories, maps, models, the whole 9 yards, and have been doing the same thing for several years. So welcome, Thomas Thompson, and hi, Lawrence, and we'll kick it off with probably Lawrence has got some more numbers to throw at us, but I'd also like you guys' comments on this Freemasonry thing.
Yeah. Well, most of the Freemasons, it's just a social club, and they go there for a few drinks, meet their mates, and you know, it's. I used to go in the Freemasons when I was a kid for asking for a penny for the guy, you know, for Guy Fawkes night. We used to go in. We used to wait outside the bingo hall next door to it. If anybody had a good win on the bingo, they'd give us some money for penny for the guy when I was about 8 years old. But, you know.
Well, I was the same way when I was a kid. I was telling Lori earlier, my dad was a 32nd degree Mason and a Shriner. He had the really expensive rings and all the gold instruments, and we went to Washington. But you know what? He was still just an ordinary businessman. He did not know the first thing about any flat earth conspiracy, any astronaut conspiracy. He didn't know any of that. He was just your average suburban Joe. You know, good time businessman. You know, they got the whole buddy system going on there. But, you know, other than that, when we say that the Masons are behind, you know, the flat earth, we are not talking about, you know, like Lori was telling me earlier, we're not talking about your common lodges that, you know, the average citizen goes to. We're talking, you know, that's just like the general church. That's just like the front door of what we're talking about. What we're actually talking about when we say Masons are behind it, like, you know, all the astronauts were Masons. Well, these are not your average, ordinary lodge Masons. These guys are like super high up the food chain. So yeah, so when we speak on Masonry, we are not in any way insinuating as a common lodge Mason is in any way involved in it. Well, at least that's how I see it, because I know my dad didn't have nothing to do with any of that kind of stuff.
Can we move on to some numbers?
Okay. Just for everybody, hold on just 1 second, please. For everybody in Hangout or in the chat, we're waiting for Jake to join. He's having some difficulties getting the link to work, so we're working on it, but he'll be with us shortly, hopefully. Go ahead, Lawrence.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes a lot of the information we're still looking for, a lot of it's not even hidden in plain sight. It's right there before us. We just have to go and check, cross-reference it. And I had a little brainwave earlier this week. I was just walking the dog and I thought, well, how high is the sun? You know, because I've come up with some theories before, but I've got a more robust theory now. And
yeah, that was a great theory.
It's pretty hard to knock. So I'm going to bring it up on screen so those who are watching on YouTube can actually see it. I'll talk through the podcast viewers as to what it says. There we go. Screen share. Okay. And this is a post on Facebook. Okay. So I'll read it out. How high is the sun? I think I now have the most reliable answer to this question. Here is my train of thought using no numbers. So the distance from the Tropic of Cancer to the North Pole at 90 degrees north is 4,602 miles. Now you can go and check that, and you might find it's 5 or 10 miles difference, but in the scheme of things, that's neither here nor there. The sun is directly overhead the Tropic of Cancer at the summer solstice, and when it's directly overhead, the angle is 90 degrees. And at the same time, the sun angle at the North Pole is at its maximum. It's at 23.7 precisely. I've checked that on SunCalc. And that's the angle of the sun there. So you've got a distance and you've got two angles. And if you've got two angles, you can form a right angle triangle, and you can find the height of the sun. So if you look at the little triangle on the left, the four corners of the triangle are B, A, and C. C is the ground at the Tropic of Cancer. B is the sun directly above, and A is the geographical North Pole. And so the distance from C, Tropic of Cancer, to A is your 4602. The sun angle, the baby A, you know, the small A there is the 23.47. C is 90 degrees, and the other one's obviously going to be that plus that, taken from 180. You don't need it anyway, because I just used a right angle triangle calculator, and you've only got to put two of the values in, and it will give you the value of the one you like. And I wanted the value of A, you know, the distance from C to B, which is A, and the answer is 1,998.142 miles. So call it 2,000 miles. And that's been on the Facebook page a couple of days, and nobody's been able to find any fault with that train of thought. So what do you think, Thomas?
Yeah, I was looking at it, and you're absolutely right, because we know that the angle of the sun, that determines our season. So we've already known that angle. And yeah, if you're standing on Cancer and the sun, you know, in the summertime, it's coming directly overhead, 90 degrees straight up. There's no question about it. You have that angle correct. You have the Earth's tilt, you know, because they say, well, the Earth's a ball or whatnot. You have the tilt correct. And again, the same thing can be done with the South Pole and Capricorn in the wintertime. Again, you measure the distance from the South Pole to Capricorn. And again, your sun would be at 90 degrees up from Capricorn. I don't see a problem with this at all. The math, I mean, this isn't even your math. You're not even making up numbers. These are legitimate, real numbers that we know are absolutely right. So yeah, I don't.
There's no speculation, you know. Obviously, we have to take at face value that the distances on Earth are correct. But if they weren't correct, then the sailors would not be able to navigate, because, you know, they're working on numbers when they use their sextant and sun angles. So the reverse would apply at the opposite pole down in Antarctica, and the same exercise could be done to determine the height of the moon. You've just got to gather the data. I haven't had time to look at that yet, but I would estimate that the moon is 50 to 100 miles beneath the height of the sun. So that's that little one. Any comments from you, Laurie? I know you don't like numbers.
Oh, she's still chatting with Jake, trying to get Jake online. But yeah,
go on, Thomas.
Yeah, you got that one locked up. I really don't see. I mean, this is a formula that you can't argue about it because it's not a formula that we created. This is a basic a squared plus b squared equals c squared, a basic Pythagorean triangle that has been used for thousands of years, and no one has ever had a problem with this formula. Whether you're a globe earther, a concave earther, a flat earther, it doesn't matter. This formula does not change. It doesn't matter how high the sun is. I mean, it doesn't matter if you do it in the summertime or if you do it in the wintertime, you're still going to get the exact same number. So yeah, you got your witness right there.
So let me take that one down. I'm going to share a little video now. Okay, so here is some a very interesting video which is showing. I'm still on that. Is my screen still up there, Thomas? Hang on. Here we go. Is this still on? Yeah.
No.
Okay. Is my screen?
No, not on mine. No.
Hang on. Let me share again. Hang on. Screen share. Entire screen share. Okay. So I've got a little video here.
Okay. There we go.
Which is showing the midnight sun in the Arctic Circle, but also it's got all the angles of the sun, etc., and a timestamp on it, and it pans all the way around.
Yeah, notice in that too that sun is that the one where the sun's bouncing back and forth.
This is a new video that's not been shown on the Hangouts as yet.
Oh, okay. I thought
now,
that
I've
was
actually
that.
checked the sun elevation with the time and cross-referenced that with time and date, and it's all spot on. So if it was a fake, it will be an extremely good fake. But I've checked out the guy who makes the video, and he does these types of films for a living and does photography and all that sort of stuff. And his YouTube account's only got about 500 subs on it anyway, so it's not some big government YouTube account out to tell porkies.
Now, where is this taken, Lawrence? Where is he shooting this?
It's in Tromsø. It says in the bottom right-hand corner, Tromsø, 6940 North, 1854 East in Norway.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay. I see that now down in the lower right corner.
Yeah. So the sun does go up and down a little. The closer you get to the poles, the lower the sun remains in the sky. And when you get to the absolute pole, according to SunCal anyway, the sun goes round at a level height at an angle of 23.47 for a couple of months or so.
That's amazing.
Hey, Lawrence, have you ever seen any 24/7 northern moon footage? 24-hour footage?
No, because the moon will be up at the same time in the day. You know, so you might have difficulty seeing.
Probably wouldn't see it. Okay.
No. You know,
I know. You said that you did some checking, and the moon is visible 24/7 in the south.
Right now, in the south, you know, in the Antarctic Circle, the moon's up 24/7. Oops, this is the same guy. Hang on. Let me come out of that.
Yeah, you can go into time and date right now, and you can look on time and date right now, and you can see that the south is completely lit up right now, 24/7.
Yeah, there's been quite a few films from Ushuaia that are being taken right now, or in the last week.
Well,
24/7.
It's the same latitude as the UK, so
yeah, why there's
we get about 17 hours of daylight here in the summer. And when you get to the north of Scotland, you get about getting on for 20 hours. Or the islands.
Turn the video off. The music is still playing in the background, Lawrence. Okay,
Yeah.
so in case anyone is trying to figure out what happened to Jake, he's stressing because he is trying to get in here. I've sent him multiple invitations, both through here and to his phone, to his email, and his app keeps telling him get started. And when he tries to click through, he's downloaded the app for Hangouts again, and he says it won't click through because it says that this is offline or his phone is offline. I'm not exactly sure which is the problem, but he's trying to stream through his phone, or connect through his phone, and he's having all kinds of problems. I tried to get him earlier to get in here to see if we could get it to work. So he's probably frustrated as hell and trying to keep going to figure it out. I told him, turn your phone off, do all that kind of stuff, and see if you can get back in and re-download the app. And every time it says, get started. And then when he pushes that button, it says, there's no stream. So I guess that's from here or from his phone. I'm not really sure. He has a data plan on his phone. So we'll keep going and hope he can figure it out. And either that or he'll throw his phone against the wall or something. So he doesn't have Wi-Fi on his computer, so he can't go through that way. So we'll figure it out. If not, we'll try again, because that's the nature of Goofy Hangouts on YouTube. So people that have been following this channel for a couple of years now have heard umpteen 33 reasons, more than that, for why the AE map doesn't work. And some people have gotten to the point of, yawn, snore, can't you guys talk about something else? How long are you going to go through this? Well, just as a matter of record, a couple of years ago when we started this, there were a handful of people who knew that the AE map was wrong. Now there are probably tens of thousands of flat earthers, maybe more, who fully know that the AE has problems. Well, it's more than just problems, but let's just go with it has problems. And let's just throw in there, it's the best we've got. And let's also add into the recipe, it doesn't matter because we all know the Earth's flat and it's not spinning. And, some will say it's a intelligent design creation and all kinds of other things we agree on. The problem is we have this one serious sticking point that we don't agree on. And we've reiterated multiple times why it matters. And yet people will say it's divisive. We need unity. We need to get the flat earth movement together, and we need to focus on all the reasons why it's important to get this message out, and so on. As we've discussed numerous times, the problem comes in when if you're talking to someone about flat earth and you say, well, just Google it, research it. The first thing they're going to find when they get on Google is the Flat Earth Society. That's going to be at the top of nearly everyone's search engine or search results, and at least within the first top 3 things on the first page. So they click on Flat Earth Society, which we all agree that it is controlled opposition, and then they see that map and model. Then the next thing they do is they go on YouTube and they start searching out flat earth and looking at videos from the top channels with all the big numbers, because that must be where all the action is, and that must be the best channel because it has the biggest subs and the biggest view counts. So let's go watch those videos. I was watching a video yesterday, as a matter of fact, that was doing a great job of talking about how we're spinning and the velocity and the flying through the universe and chasing the sun and the 66 million miles an hour and the whole thing, doing a great job. And then in the last few minutes, actually, of the video, what happened? We went to the circling sun, dome covered disk. And this is how it works. And then you just lost me if I'm a viewer, because they've already seen that a million times. They've seen it on Google. They've seen it on, mainstream broadcast news. They've seen it on they've just seen it a bunch of times. And it is iconic at this point that people see the circle disk with the dome over the top and the little moon and the little sun circling always opposite each other. They never catch up. They never cross paths. They're just always, it's, very mechanical. And people know that that is not reality. So then you've got people that are repeatedly being asked to do interviews, and they're repeating the same thing. And this is why it matters, because if you've ever done any sort of control or of opposition research, meaning opposition research means whatever you believe, go look at what the other people who don't believe what you believe are saying about what you believe. And they will be the first to tell you where the problems are. And you can either choose to ignore the problems, or you can just globe or shill. They don't know. They're stupid. And then there's a total breakdown in communication. So if the method of bringing flat Earth news, which is the name of Thomas's Facebook page, bringing the flat Earth news to new people who haven't heard it before, or anybody who has done any cursory research on it at all, if you start bringing in this map and model with problems, and it's the best we have, it's just an introduction to flat Earth, it's how it might work, and they've already gotten past that research. They've already gotten past that map and model, but by just debunking it or seeing that it's wrong, you've lost them. And not only have you lost them, but that's where all that started about y'all are just in a cult, and it's an echo chamber, and you all just repeat it after each other. None of you people have actually done any personal research. You just repeat the same brainwashed thing. You're just brainwashed again. So this is the reason why it matters. And this is why we've been harping on it for a couple of years now. We are making some tremendous headway. There are many, many more people now who are in agreement that the pizza model, the circles, the Gleason, the AE, the blue Frisbee, as Jake calls it, is wrong and should not represent the flat Earth. Now, let's talk about unity for a second. When you are trying to do consensus building, and consensus means we all agree on something, okay? Even if it's as simple as we're all here in this room, or the sky's blue, or boy, this wine is good. Whatever it is, we're building consensus on. The only way that you're going to be able to do that is if you keep as little amount of opinion into the mix as possible. And if you want to create unity, there's one real quick way to do it, and that is ditch the problem that is causing the division. Lawrence and I and Thomas and people like us are not going to go away. We're not going to stop talking about it. We're not, because we have a vested interest in calling ourselves flat earthers. when you call yourself a flat earther, you lump yourself into a very large group of people with a myriad of beliefs and ideas and opinions. There are some agreeable opinions that nearly every flat earther has, and that is the earth is flat, it's stationary, and it's a pretty good chance it is an intelligent design. Who the designer was, that's up for grabs from a lot of people, whether you be an atheist, an agnostic, a science person, a Christian, a Muslim, a Buddhist. It doesn't matter. The intelligent design becomes obvious. Okay, so flat, stationary, and intelligently designed. Now, those are three very, very big things to agree on to call yourself a flat earther. The problem comes in and the division comes in when people start saying, with definitive voice, well, this is how it works. I've heard Mark Sargent do it. I've heard Eric Dubay do it. I've heard, David Weiss, Jaron, lots of the big, what they call the big channels, are very confident in saying this is how it works, or this is how it must work, or this is how it probably works. And therein lies the division, because there's people like us who say, no, it doesn't, it can't possibly work that way. But yet we're still flat earthers. So I'm calling for a common ground that if we were to, and boycott's a big word, ignore, not use, pass on, putting up maps and models in our talks, videos, hangouts, websites, blogs, interviews with media, then no one would have any problems. No division would occur that I can see, because that's where it's all focused on. So when I came up with the title for this hangout, 33 Reasons, that part was a spoof, but let me see. But at the end of the day, you could shut us up in a heartbeat if people would just stop promoting that. And you'll have people like Jaron who will say, I can promote whatever I want. Yes, you sure can, but then you can't turn around and talk about division and people who are dividing. So you guys carry on. Talk about whatever you want. Jake's sent me 4 messages. I'm going to see what's going on here.
You know what? I'd like to add a little thing here. As far as why does it matter? Is it good enough? Here's the thing. If I send my kid to school, and you're the teacher, and my kid comes home and I say, okay, kid, what's 9 times 5? And the kid looks at me and like, it's more than 40. It's good enough, right? Is that an acceptable answer, from your kid? No, that's an ignorant form of logic. When have you ever heard any serious researcher or scientist say, well, it's good enough, or it's close enough, or, well, you get the idea? Those are not the words of a researcher. Those are not the words of a scientist. Those are the words of someone who doesn't care about the answer. Okay, we're talking about, for starters, we're talking about intelligent design. And again, I wouldn't dare put any kind of label on who the designer or what the designer is. But you're never going to figure that out if you don't know what it is that was designed in the first place. This is very important. We need to know exactly what our world is shaped like. We have the technology, we have the resources, but they're being hoarded by other people, that have interest in deluding us with ideas and fantasies about space and going to Mars and all kind of other magical aliens and other kind of nonsense going on out there. This is very important. It's not good enough to say, well, the Gleason's got a few errors in it, but it's what we got. That's not acceptable. I mean, what if your child's got a disease and the doctor comes up to you, well, we don't have the perfect cure, but well, we got something that's close enough. Maybe it'll get her, maybe heal her, maybe it won't. I don't know. We're close enough. This is what we do. That wouldn't be acceptable to you. It's never acceptable. It's never good enough unless it's right. We want the truth. As simple as that. If it's good enough for you, then you don't care about the truth. If you don't care about the truth, then why are you even here? Because that's the whole goal in the end, is to find the truth. So that's what I got to say on that subject. It does matter. Okay, moving on here. Let's find some facts to deal with here. Okay, again, another fact to deal with right now that folks are just ignoring. Right now, at this very moment, there is 24-hour sun in the South Pole. And how do you make this work on a circle map and include nighttime in the middle of it somewhere? You got to have a big hole of nighttime, because on your ice ring, the entire ice ring is lit up right now. All you got to do is find someone at the lower tip of South America, someone at the lower tip of Africa, someone in Australia or New Zealand. Those are the three closest points to the South Pole, and they're completely opposite directions. And they'll all tell you right now it's daytime there. Matter of fact, I wish Jake was here to explain it a little bit better, but he showed us on the phone, where you can go on your phone and it actually shows you what the sky looks like in any city in the world that you want to know what the weather is. It doesn't just tell you, well, it's rainy or sunshine. It actually shows you the sky, so you can actually watch the dawn or watch the sunset in any country around the world. Go to those three cities right now on your phone using your little phone app, and you can see sun in the South Pole. It doesn't work on a round map. I'm sorry, folks, it just doesn't. Right now, at this very moment. And explain this magic lampshade that puts a big black shadow in the middle of the earth. That's just not possible. Come on, guys. You got to use some logic here. How does the sun change its shape from, when it's in the summertime, it's a circle. And then when it's in the fall and the spring, it's a half a pie. And then when it's in the wintertime, it's this crazy, I don't even know what that shape is called. That's not a real shape. Whatever that shape they're using for the wintertime sun is not a real light shape. You cannot make that without a light pattern, as simple as that. So right now, the South Pole utterly debunks this whole idea of Gleason map. So if you want to debunk, right there's one. Plus what Lawrence just showed. Well, you know what? That's actually, what you showed us, Lawrence, isn't actually a debunk of the Gleason. But that is an interesting fact. But let's stop debunking for a second. And I have a question. Your math is absolutely right on this. There's no question about it. Your math is absolutely correct according to a squared equals b squared equals, or a squared plus b squared equals c squared. We know that the numbers are correct. We know what the angle is, from the pole. So there's no question about this. Now, here's the question. A lot of people are going to ask, well, how come we're seeing the sun inside of clouds? And then the second question is, are we still assuming that the sun is inside our environment, or is that where the light is meeting when it reflects in, or what? What?
I think the sun's got to be outside, because
that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
The sun doesn't work anywhere on any map or model or the globe. The sun patterns we get, they simply don't work. So the sun must be having some optical effect, which gives us, what we see, when everybody's getting 90 degrees to 70 degrees on the equinoxes. That doesn't work anywhere on any type of map. But I have got a new debunk of the AE map. So I'll briefly share that with you. Get the screen back again. There we go. Screen share. You like this one, Thomas? You've probably already seen it, or maybe not. Here we go. So London to Sydney, we were looking at that on the Great Circle routes last week as to how it is. So I actually put these routes on the Gleason map. So London to Sydney, in reality, the vast majority of the flights go via Dubai. So my pointer there, they go via Dubai or Abu Dhabi, which is just a few miles away. There was one that went via Delhi and one that went by Hong Kong, but you know, probably 75–80% of the flights are going these two locations here in the Middle East. But funnily enough, if you look on the map of the Gleason map, London to Sydney is a straight line flying almost over Japan. So as these are all two legs, the most sensible route and the most economical route will be to have your first stop in Tokyo, refuel and fly on to Sydney. As it is this way, when if this map were correct, by the time they get to Dubai, they've still got almost as far to go as when they set off. If you look at that line there and that line there, yeah, that one's a bit bigger, but not much. And they're going several thousand miles over to Dubai, which is needless. So obviously you'll get people pointing out the Southern Hemisphere route's making sense on the AE map, but this one doesn't, does it? This is just one I've picked at random. And when you look at these actual flights, so they're all disjointed here, but when you look at the flights on a different map, so it'll be just as good on a Mercator, but I've got them on here. So we've got these places, London, Dubai, Delhi, Hong Kong, and Tokyo. So if I just put that,
it works perfect.
I just open that with paint and draw some lines. There we go. You can see, there we go. Let's just change the color. Do a little line. So we go from London to Dubai, which is about there. Oops, sorry, wrong line. So we want a line. There we go. A line. London to Dubai, which is about there.
There it is.
And then Dubai down to Australia and Sydney. So that's pretty much straight. And if they go to Delhi,
that's almost a straight line.
Go to Delhi. Yeah, that's because that one is the shortest route. If they go to Hong Kong, it's a bit further over there, and then they come down. And of course, the one on the AE map, when you put that on any type of square map, it becomes the longest possible route. So there is only one airline that will take you to Sydney from London, and that's Nippon Airways, which is a Japanese company anyway. So they've probably got some vested interest. So a lot of the airlines that fly from London to Sydney haven't got any vested interest in these particular stop-off points. The ones, so like the American airlines that fly from here, like Delta, they're going to take the most economical route, and most of them are taking this route here, which if the flat map is correct, that is the shortest route, and that's the one that's going to use the least jet fee. The last one they're going to do is go over to Tokyo and add several thousand miles to the route because jet fuel's expensive. So that's another debunk of your good old AE map.
Thanks, Lawrence. Let me jump in here and gladly welcome Jake Gibson, the Flat Earth asshole, to...
Hey, you were right. I needed to just flip on my cellular data on the Google Hangouts app, and then suddenly, here I am.
Well, sometimes I just accidentally remember things that people have told me about some of these little quirky things. And so I'm glad I was able to just sort of troubleshoot that and get you on here. So welcome. And your first time.
Well, thanks. Flat Earth because
Conspiracy.
I was about to go totally Matt Powerbottom and say they always do this to me. They're always screwing with my phone. Whenever I'm about to go live, they do this to me all the time.
Do you have any more volume you can give me from your end? Because you're just a little quiet.
Me?
So I can, you. I can give you a little more on my end because compared to us with microphones, just stay probably closer to the phone
okay.
Okay. So now that you're here, I want to ask you a couple questions, and nothing putting you on the spot or any of that stuff, but
Okay.
we've been friends on Facebook for a good while, and we have a mutual friend, Bruce Robinson, who I want to shout out to. Hi, Bruce. And he said to me a couple of times when I said, why is Jake saying this? Or why is Jake saying that? And he'd say, because I knew he was, more in communication with you than I was. And he said, I've been trying to tell him about the AE problems, and it's not that he won't listen. He's just got other things. And so somewhere along the way, something clicked for you, and you realized that the AE map and model were not only not the best we have, but that it was full of holes and errors. And then it led you to something else. And that was a pretty good rant video that you did about that. I think it was the lampshade one. And then right after that, you did a boycott the AE map rant, and started a shitstorm that has had a ripple effect for a few weeks now, probably maybe about a month. So tell me what flipped your switch. I know it wasn't watching me and Lawrence, and I know it wasn't, just watching Cool Hard Logic's debunking of the flat Earth, calling us flat-tards video.
No.
But let me know what kind of the quick sequence of events that made you go on a rant.
Well, you and Jaron went back and forth years ago, and then Bruce has been poking holes in many of the popular flat Earth things that we were handed, like the map and the curvature formula, lots of different things. And Bruce would always be the guy that throws rocks at the popular flat Earth stuff. And as a content creator, I would listen to him and I would agree with him. But then when I go to make videos, I didn't want to shit on everybody and create a shitstorm. So I kind of stopped promoting the AE map and started dropping hints that it was no longer my preference. But I didn't go against it straight up and say, hey, it's bullshit and let's ditch it until just recently, because I kind of went through this thing where I snapped with flat earthers in general, and just these people who call themselves truthers who just make up whatever they want now, to where it's not even about the earth not curving, and it's not even about the earth not spinning anymore, that now it's become like mountains are trees, and every man is a woman, and every woman is a man, and if you don't agree, you're a shill. And it just became this fucking thing where, like, people were like, Jake is Bill Nye's son, and he's a Jew, and he doesn't talk about the Zionist Jews, and he doesn't think that mountains are trees, so therefore he's a fucking shill. And I got just so fed up with all of it that I thought, all right, I'm going to take my swings at all the people who I think are fake and full of shit, and I'm going to just start being real, and just start saying what I feel regardless of who it offends, because it's about the truth. And I'll admit I didn't want to start up a shitstorm because I was enjoying, being the sweetheart and the darling of the flat earth. But it gets to a point where all these people, like, they just seem fake. Like they're either pushing an agenda or they're just out for dollar bills. And then I got burned by different people, like Matt and IPS and these people, so, it just seemed like the time was right. I had a big enough voice and a big enough audience to go after Eric, go after Matt, go after Jaron, and go after Mark all at once. Because in my opinion, those are the four guys who came along and really sold us all the map, at least in my opinion, and they still stick to it. And so I just thought the time was right to make my move. And like I said, if I tried this last year when Bruce was telling me all these things wrong with the map, I wasn't a big enough voice for it to have made a big enough difference. I think they'd have just swept me right under the rug. If that makes sense.
Well, I understand that. I totally do, because Lawrence and I are not big names. Thomas is not a big name. The names that we have made for ourselves, though, have been made by that. We didn't make that name for ourselves. Others did that. Others called us shills. Others called us, troublemakers, and they just can't give up, get on with it about this map thing. It doesn't make that much difference, all that stuff. And so the names that we got were given to us by others. And so regardless of that, we just kept plodding along, doing our own research on this little channel, and hoping that some of the other people who cared enough to actually look into some new and ongoing research would see some of the things we're talking about. Fortunately, over a long period of time, you did it in the, like the bullwhip fashion, and we've done the slow and steady wins the race fashion. But interestingly enough, both methods are working, and there is a growing number of people who agree with you, agree with us, that that we need to just stop using that whole map model thing and get back to the basics of flat Earth, the things that we agree on. Well, right before you came on, I did a little dissertation. You can go back and watch it later, but the point of the matter is here's where we are. What do we do now? Because people keep saying, you're being divisive. We need unity. We need to just get behind each other, and who cares about the map? So why don't you say, and I'm not going to admonish you for your language, but we try to keep language bad language to a minimum, because this goes out to millions of people that listen on podcasting, and it's a little more grating on their ears than it is when you're watching it live. So just throwing that out there. Why does it matter to you? Why did you get so upset and throw a couple of rants and go so far as to say that this map and model need to be boycotted?
I feel the map and model are connected to the fake personalities who originally sold it to us, and I now view them as my enemy. And I feel like they're just as bad as Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse pushing the globe. I now look at Eric and Matt and Mark and Jaron as walking, talking Flat Earth Society is what I look at. They are the Flat Earth Society. When you get through the first wave of Flat Earth Society, they're the actual walking, talking, physical actors who push the second part of the deception. All right, you figured out it's flat. Well, here's your new map and model. And I feel like we can correct the map, which needs correcting if it's possible, correct the sun's movement if it's possible, by pointing out that it's wrong. So there's that. The fact that it's wrong, and we need to get past it. But it's also connected to these personalities who are liars, and they're being purposely deceitful. I don't think for a minute that they just overlooked these issues, because you guys have been pointing it out for years, and plenty of people have been pointing it out for years. And you just get banned and blocked by these guys and called a shill. And so it's getting to the point where something had to give. These four guys, I consider the heads of the Flat Earth Society, the real walking, talking Flat Earth Society. They're connected to the map and to the circle sun, and it's wrong. And so if we can ditch and boycott the AE map, then they go down with it, unless they flip-flop, right? And if they flip-flop, they have to really eat some shit and come off somehow being genuine and saying, oh, I overlooked these issues, and you guys were right and I was wrong. And I don't see any of them doing that. So that's why a full-on boycott is the only way to get all four of these guys and that whole flat earth society in general to go down in flames, and we can move on with what is right. We can't put something that's a lie in place of the globe, which is a lie, and call it progress. And of course,
that's actually a good one that I heard you say on the last video you did, that is absolutely true. How can that be progressing truth when it's good enough, it's the best we have? You know, you and I had a conversation a month or so ago, you know, where we were talking about the best we have, and I said, and you used it with permission, and glad you did, but the whole story,
I totally, yeah,
it's okay. I don't mind being ripped off for things I come up with if it's usable to somebody, and I don't need any credit. Lawrence doesn't, I don't, Thomas doesn't, none of us should ask for credit. If something goes out viral into the world, then you know, you have your own personal satisfaction and going, yeah, that was a pretty good one. But you know, I said to you, if you get invited to a black tie event, and you know everyone is going to show up, all the women are going to have their fancy dresses and shoes and hair all done up, and the men are all going to have on tuxedos and shiny shoes and maybe even cummerbunds, and you don't have any of that to wear, but you're still invited. You're going to show up in, you know, a pair of jeans and your best flannel shirt, and you know, I'm here. I mean, what kind of Gomer are you going to look like? And then just say, you know, someone's going to say, but sir, this is a black tie event. You're supposed to have on at least a jacket. And you say, well, I'm sorry, this is the best I had. Well, then you shouldn't have come, because that's the whole purpose of a black tie event. Okay. So when you say I'm a flat earther and you start talking to people about, you know, they say, well, what keeps the water from flowing off the edge? Haha. Best question always ever. You really don't need to say anything other than there is no edge, or I don't know. You don't have to make up something like, well, it's the ice wall. Of course, it's the ice wall. The ice wall goes all the way around the disk of the flat earth. And then you think that's going to be the end of the discussion about that question. You suddenly, well, oh, okay. Nobody's going to follow that up with, wait a minute, what ice wall? And you go, oh, the ice wall that gets like miles high and goes all the way around the perimeter, and the water can't run off. You know, God created it that way. And then they're going to say, but which is only 373 miles long, called the Ross Ice Shelf. How does that go 65 or 70,000 miles around the circle? And that's a whole conversation that didn't even need to happen. But because you bullshitted and came up with this answer, which seems to have worked for everyone else, then you extrapolate on that and go, oh, and I've got more. I've got a nice little dome that fits right, you know, super dome that fits right over the top of it. Some call it a snow globe, some call it the, you know, the dome, some call it the terrarium. Yahweh's terrarium, Rub Skiba calls it. And then they go, well, where is that? No one's ever discovered that. Well, that's because you can't go to Antarctica. It's absolutely against the law to go to Antarctica because there's a treaty. And then you go into that whole dissertation about something somebody completely made up. You can go to Antarctica. Anybody can go to Antarctica. First, you have to have money, okay? Second, you have to apply for like an equivalent of a travel visa there. And then you have to, you know, be contained so that you don't run off out, woohoo, I'm going to go look for the ice wall and freeze to death and cause $100,000 worth of rescue operation to come and find you. Okay, so all of this conversation is completely fictitious, but you sound like you either thought it all through and you know what you're talking about, or worse yet, someone's going to go, oh man, does this so sound like cult indoctrination to me? This is, you got this whole story. Who'd you get this story from? Okay.
You know, while it's in my head, I got to say this. It's like the circle map and the circle sun. If you've had the globe deception pulled away, once you see the globe doesn't make sense, and then they show you the circle map and circle sun, it just looks so good on first sight that it's easy for somebody to jump on once they've figured out that the globe is wrong. It's easy to go, oh, well, then it must be this thing because that's the thing we're all shown. And so I think that's where the problem it comes in for a lot of people, whereas the very skeptical people, the more I'd say the smarter people we'd want on our sides will look at that circle model with the circle sun and say, well, that doesn't make sense because of this, this, and this. And then maybe they say, so flat earth is wrong. Because there's a lot of people who believe in a globe and they use all their debunking based on that flat earth a circle map with the circle sun. And they say, so flat earth is impossible because of all these reasons. And they don't ever think that it could be still flat, but just not that map and not that sun. They take it apart at face value that it's wrong. And then they say, so flat earth is garbage.
Okay. So Lawrence,
and so,
do you have any insights for Jake or anything you would like to ask Jake? Because Lawrence, me, and Thomas, all three, will stand here with Scout's honor and admit when we first came into Flat Earth 2, that was a map and model that we saw. And that was what everybody was talking about. This was in, for Lawrence in what, 2014? Yeah. For me in very early 2015. For Thomas, right after that. We all got the same indoctrinated circle.
Yeah. So the big question is, why in 2014 did they inject the internet with this flat earth bug? And anyone who goes, no, it's been around forever. It's all the ancients knew it. It's all everybody's always been talking about it. No, 2014, this shit showed up like injected into the internet. And then 2015, it blew up. And now we have an international conference and every station talks about it all the time, to where it's obvious to me it's a controlled, pushed rollout. But there's still people who want to think that, no, it's the cat got out of the bag. we're exposing this great flat truth to the world, and all the media talking about it is good. It's like, you know, even when they go with the Frisbee on camera, it's good for flat earth. It gets people to look into it. I say, no, it doesn't get people to look into it. It gets people to have a preconceived notion of what we are.
Gets them to laugh at us is what it gets us to do.
It gets a good laugh. Okay, Lawrence, come on. I know you've been interested in what Jake has to say about it.
I was going to fill something in for Jake that he may not be aware of, and he may find this interesting, but I rang up Laurie last summer. We had a chat on the phone. We were like Mully and Sculder. We were digging into this map. And if you didn't know, Jake, the actual Gleason map, it's not from 1892. It was made about 3 or 4 years ago, and we proved it. They focused on all the spelling mistakes that we picked out on the map and stuff like that. But the real way of actually determining that it was a fake was the information on it was fraudulent. So I'm just going to bring up the map and talk you through it and then show you where that leads. Let's do a screen share. I don't know whether you can see this on your phone, Jake. So here we've got the Gleason map. I'll just enlarge it a bit.
And I got it up on my TV so I can see everything real big.
All right. So you look at the bottom of the map. I'm going to make it bigger again. So you read at the bottom, published by the Buffalo Electrotype and Engraving Company. Okay. Well, that is, you know, that this has just been made up. The map's been made up, and this information here has been made up, as of all these drawings of, so, you know, things about the sun on it. They were never on the original patent. So if we go back to the original patent, here we go. Here's the patent. And if you read the patent, let's have a look at the map first. Here we go. Here's the patent. This is a proper image of it. The other one's not very good. And if you go to the bottom of the map, yeah, it says, it's in small letters, it says the Norris Peters Company, Photo Litho, Washington, D.C. These were the people who did the work for his map, not this Buffalo Litho and Engraving Company. They didn't do it. That's just been added on as a forgery, but got further evidence for it apart from that. So, you know, this guy Gleason would have gone, oh yeah, here's my patent, and all the work's been done by Norris Peters, who do make maps, and I'll show you that in a minute. Oh no, I'm going to give it to this Buffalo Engraving Company who've never made a map in their life, and the only one they've ever made. I'll show you now. Let's have a look. Come out of that. Here we go. Norris Peters. It's not that one.
You want the Rand McNally one, right?
Okay, so yeah, so on Rand McNally is, yeah, that's the Buffalo Street map. It was a different one I wanted. Just a minute. I shall find it in a minute. There we go. So this is the total workload of maps for Buffalo Electrotype. If you do a search, these are the two maps they'll bring up. The Gleason map, which they didn't do, it was a different company, and this new map of the city of Buffalo. Well, if you look at this map, you can see all these red lines that have been drawn in, and there's a reason for that. And at the further down,
can you open it, Lawrence?
There we go.
There you go.
It's done by the Buffalo, you know, it's got their name on it. But when you start looking at the small print, so let's go back to this one here, Rand McNally. There we go. Rand McNally did that map, and you can buy one on eBay, an original map, 1901 coloured map of Buffalo, Rand McNally and Company, Atlas of the World. Let's go and have a look at that. Here we go. I can find that. Here we are. So it's on eBay. So here's the map, and you can actually look at, here we go. Rand McNally and Company, map of Buffalo. If you look at the bottom, it says copyright 1901. Yeah, Rand McNally and Company, copyright 1901. But when you look at the Buffalo one, let's find the Buffalo one now. Here we go. Here he goes. Let's go and have a look at that one. And if you look at that one, Buffalo, they make it a bit bigger. Sorry, bigger. Oh,
somebody took a felt tip marker and made some nice red lines on it, Lawrence.
Yeah, and there's a reason for that. I'll tell you why. Now, but if you look at the bottom, yeah, they've put copyright 1901 by the Buffalo Litho Company. Well, Rand McNally, that wasn't their first street map of Buffalo. They've done ones in previous years, because I've been looking at them today. So these are the only two maps attributed to this Buffalo Electrotype and Engraving Company. And we dug into them, and they didn't make maps. They did engravings, you know, and they made printing equipment. They certainly weren't printing maps. But you can actually take a look at the company that did do that patent, which is Norris Peters. You can just do a general Google search on them, map of Korea and Manchuria, and then you've got their name on here, Norris Peters Litho. Another one, Norris Peters, which is the map of the battlefield of Antietam drawn. You can't see the map very well there, but you've got their name again on here. Norris Peters. There was lots. And there's another one, which was the map of Korea and Manchuria. So they were a proper map maker, or certainly a printer of maps. So but it always puzzled me why the fake map, they'd drawn those red lines in, because when you look at the proper Rand McNally map, yeah, which is...
And everybody knows Rand McNally in the United States is like the biggest map maker in the country.
This is one that I found for sale. It was sold a few years ago, yeah, and this is the original map, and whoever bought it originally drew these red lines in, yeah. Those red lines weren't there originally, and these red lines, yeah, were copied by the PSYOP to put this fake map out, but they made some mistakes. So if you compare this one, you put them face to face. I could probably do it for the next show. You put the two next to each other, and you'll see that the red lines, they've circled some of the wrong parts on it. And I can show you two back to back. If you bear with me. There's two together. I know they're going to be on paint, I think. On that one, there we go. London, Gleason Payton, Gleason Race. Is he on there? No, that's the Gleason Payton. Going to be in here somewhere. Is he in that one? No.
The point that Lawrence
yeah, I've got it here. I think I've got it here.
He's not going to let me make the point. He has to go through all this so he can make the point.
No, sorry, let me just finish this. So this is the one that Buffalo forged. They altered all this side of it, and then they just, they got a stamp and stamp their name on it. But this is the one that was for sale, yeah? So they probably bought this one because it sold about 10 years ago and decided to start copying the lines. But when you start comparing some of these things, the lines are not the same. But these lines have been drawn in red. But when you look at the original map, there are no red lines because they're not necessary. But whoever was, working on this on the PSYOP, this was the map they obtained, and they thought that was the original. But the original didn't have the red lines because I showed you that one earlier on the eBay map. So it's quite clear that, that as part of the PSYOP, they put a street map to the credit of Buffalo Electrotype. So otherwise, they would have only done one map, which was the Gleason. So because they got two maps, gives them more credibility, but both are fake because they did neither.
Okay, so what you're saying is they took the original Rand McNally map that was created or printed by the Norris Litho Company. They took the Buffalo part off.
Yeah.
They took the Buffalo part off the bottom and like photoshopped over it this old-fashioned Buffalo litho electrotype company, and in order to create the whole illusion that the Buffalo lithograph company or engraving company was in fact a map printer, and they were not. Yeah, that's the point. So then you go back to the Gleason, and you see that this later Gleason map, not the one with the patent, the one that is the pretty colorful one that everybody uses, that doesn't have the little arms on it, is the forgery map. Is that what that's what you're saying? And they created that for it to be dropped into the flat earth because it wasn't there when we all started. It was magically found in that Boston library, whatever, about 2 years ago, correct?
Yeah, 2.5 years ago. Now, let me just show you some other points here on this, because you should find this interesting. So it talks to you about the mechanics of the map. Okay, but let's look at what the words actually say. On the face of the map proper and within another circle is laid out the continents, principal islands, rivers and cities. And when you look at the actual map itself on the patent, there's just a handful of islands on there. But when you look at the Gleason map itself, go back to that, and you can see they've got the most tiny island, whole chains of islands, great detail all round. all labeled and put in the correct longitude and latitude. It would have took months to get all this information together and compiled, and you know, so all this lot here, they're not on that map. There's very, you know, it's just got the main continents and a few bits of islands. And then the other thing which is interesting about it is, not that page, this one here. It says, because I look at the technical things of what they're doing anyway. So I'm not looking at this particularly with regard to things like geography and stuff like that. But I'm not, you know, as a work of art, what is wrong with, you know, where have they made the mistakes? And one of the things that they did, bear with me 1 second, further down.
You need to tell us what show us what the top of that page link is. Lawrence, please, just for a second. Show us what the top of the page link is for those watching so that they can go there and see where you're at, where you found all this.
Yeah, if you just type in Gleason map patent, you'll get this up at the top. So
okay.
You go and have a look at the patent. So here we go. So this is what was coming up here. It says the periphery G of the circle being divided into divisions D, which represent the minutes in 24 hours. For this purpose, it would take 1,440 of these divisions. I have shown but half of this number. So he's got one for every 2 minutes, you know, 30. He's got 30 divisions on this map. Well, you can't see it very well on that one, but you can see it on the other one, which is here. Yeah. So this has got, if you count these numbers up, if you look at each piece of pie on the outer edge, yeah, it's divided into 3, and each 3 is divided into 10. So they all represent 2 minutes. But when the actual Gleason map, as we know it, came to light, lo and behold, these divisions changed to have actually 60 across it. So miraculously, he went from 30 to 60. So I've counted up all these numbers here. So each, you know, I counted them up, and within each third there are 20 divisions, which gives the 60 minutes. But Gleason's patent was for one for 30 minutes. So there is yet another inaccuracy. You know.
Drive that point, Lawrence. Drive that point home, though. What is the purpose of this map patent to begin with? It's a timekeeping device.
Yeah,
it was designed for a person to take those 2 arms. Lots of people have never actually seen that it had 2 arms on it because they're always torn off on that, you know, other one. There's either a little stub on there or they're gone completely. And these 2 arms are for the purpose of comparing the time where you are to the time where you want to see what time it is someplace else on Earth. And that's the reason for all the little time marks around the outside, correct?
Yeah, and the thing is, so the guy puts this patent in, and then when you see the actual thing that allegedly was put to market, it's completely different. It's got all sorts of Masonic stuff on. It's got a million spelling mistakes, and it's got stuff down about the you know, what's happening with the sun in the different hemispheres, which is a complete load of tosh that supports exactly what's being stated by the likes of Globebusters. You know,
okay, so also when you look at this original patent drawing, this is not the map. This is a drawing what he was using to get the patent for. Last week, we talked about the edge of the map, the icewall. On the colored Gleason, you can already see right here that they don't even show, he doesn't show ice all the way around the outside. There's a little patch of ice down at the bottom of South America and a little patch of ice below Australia, which are the most jutted out patches of ice. Now go show what you showed last week on the Gleason map of the white circle of ice around the perimeter.
Yeah, so if we just, there we go.
This is such a perfect map of the Earth.
So
there's the thick part of ice around the bottom of Australia. Now go to show the other side.
You go around and you've got all this virgin territory.
Oh, with no detail. I remember this.
Yeah, each of these little pieces of pie is over 3,000 miles, you know, if this map were correct. And there's all this territory that's nobody's ever been there. And the reason it's there is because it's filler. You know, if the distance, true distance around Antarctica is about 14,000 miles, and this comes to 76, then they've got to, you know, they've got to have blank spaces for all the gaps, because places don't exist to put in places, you know, when it's far too big. You know,
and that's your fictitious ice wall.
Too big. So,
okay.
Yeah. So that's
the ice has detail in certain locations, and then and all those other ones it's just a line without any detail.
Right,
yeah.
Right, because you don't have any detail to put in there, so you just sort of fluff the line around the outside perimeter and hope nobody will notice.
That's a good one. See, that one right there is very easy to drill home. That's what I like is very quick, easy ones where you don't have to go into a huge, long-winded scientific thing. You can just say, hey, look at these spots, you know, beneath Australia, beneath South America. There's detail on the ice. And then look at all these other portions of the ice where there's zero detail. I mean, that is very easy for anybody to understand and see.
Just those three at the bottom there, Jake, that's 10,000 miles. And it's not been...
Yeah. Well, also, I mean, really go to the perimeter of this thing, and it's written all over it that it is a timekeeping device and not, you know, a perfect map of Earth. Just because somebody threw out some more bullshit like, oh, look how much this looks like the, you know, the map of the UN. Oh, they threw that right in our face. Isn't that amazing? You know, hide in plain sight. And then, you know, it turns that gets added to the whole ancient circles and just all of that. People just keep piling on what they think is evidence to prove that this is a real map, the new standard map of the world as it is.
Yeah, you still got that book, Laurie.
That people are saying that the military uses this map. That this is what the military uses.
Well, it's not what the military uses. The military uses the Universal Transverse Mercator, UTM map. That's what they use.
So I hear people say these things, but then I don't I don't see them prove it to me. That like, here's the military software, and here they're definitely using this old Gleason's map. No, so.
Well, we did an entire episode just on kept this map up practically the whole show, talking about modern college it's no such thing as a modern college. It's called Morden College. It's a spelling error. The next thing you know, there was a new old book being gone into reprint called Modern College in Blackheath, England, and the cover of the book says Modern College. Well, I bought it just to see. There is no modern college. So I bought the book, and sure enough, you open it up inside and it's Morden College, Morden College, Morden College. And so this is the kind of stuff, when you talk about a flat earth psyop rollout, they can keep creating evidence. This is why people got so jacked up about the Mandela effect, because things kept changing and things kept being different. Well, if you've got somebody behind the scenes that is constantly making new stuff to support something somebody says or to debunk something somebody says, then it's pretty hard to get ahead of their game, right?
That's definitely true.
Thomas, let's get off this Gleason thing for a minute, and what do you got to say to Jake, or ask Jake, or communicate with Jake?
Well, all I got to say is congratulations on stepping
welcome
out.
aboard.
Yeah, congratulations on welcome to hell.
It ain't that bad, you guys. I think the time was right, and
yeah, it was. There really was a big shift once you said something. Yeah.
So far, I think the worst of it kind of already came and went. Like, they tried a few different things, and it didn't really stick. Like, they really tried to push a big campaign about me being the bad guy. All the black content creators all decided I was racist.
Mm-hmm. You know what?
None of that shit worked. I lost 200 subs, and then I went up 500. So I'm gaining subs. It didn't stop shit.
And you know what? Every time that I see people, because I've got thousands of people, and I'll get a whole bunch of people saying all this bad stuff about Jake. But you know what? It's stupid stuff. Not one of them are debunking a fact that you say. Not one of them has debunked
None
a
of
fact.
it. None of them. Listen
to the silliness. This is how retarded it's getting now. I got on Facebook just this morning, and they showed a picture of you, about 6-8 pictures of you, and it says, "Look at how Jake's looking at his audience. He thinks you're an idiot." That was the whole point of his post, that we need to boycott you because of your facial expressions. And I'm like, wow.
This is what they got on me. Here's how they attack me. They put my fucking face on a snake.
Yep.
And then they say Jake the Snake.
Yeah,
and then Matt labeled me Jake the Fake. And so since it rhymes and people don't have anything, they go Jake the Fake. I'm like, dude, I'm the most real motherfucker.
Hey.
Sorry.
Hey, here's me and Lawrence. Here's me and Lawrence sitting back going, you don't got diddly. Me and Lawrence have been. You can go and put in Flat Earth Lawrence Wright, or Flat Earth Lori Frary, or Flat Earth Pac-Man, any of those kind of names, and put them in search and click on images. And I mean, whole videos have been made about us. Pictures have been mocking pictures. Sharon made the video Waka 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 with the Pac-Man, as if that was going to stop us. You have to have thick skin if you're going to be in the truth business, and you have to be able to throw it off and not really let it bother you, because at the end of the day, you know who you are, you know where you come from. And, they've called me a tranny. They've called Lawrence a cross-dresser. I mean, the whole 9 yards. What does that have to do with Flat Earth or what we're saying?
Yeah, exactly. I see a lot of people attacking, saying that I'm being divisive. And I explained myself. Yeah, I did. I divide fake and real. I divide truth from bull crap. You know what? I divided the guys who are lying to us.
Well, here's the thing.
From the ones who want the truth. So in my opinion, was I divisive? Yeah. I wanted to divide the movement from the fake bull crap to those of us who want what's real, Well,
here's the thing, you guys. Here's the thing. I'm seeing a lot of people who don't like what Jake had to say, and here's why. Because you just realized you got tricked into the ball, and your whole life you've believed in this. Your whole life has been a lie, just like mine. Then you were handed. You didn't investigate that circle model. Don't tell me you did. When Eric DeBay showed you that video, and he proved to you that the Earth was flat, he showed you fact after fact that was in fact true.
Foul hook.
You know what? And you jumped on it. You don't even tell me you researched it, because the moment I started researching international airports,
I was the biggest Matt and Eric fan, y'all.
Oh, yeah, I was too. Well, here's the thing I got to say, though. For all you folks out there who have something bad to say about Jake, you put posts on my walls saying this and bad, Jake makes bad facial expressions, Jake head on a snake. You say all these things about he's got bad language, this and that. Well, here's the thing. I watched your video, Jake, and I saw the guys doing the little sunset and the sunrise thing, you know, where in Australia, 90 degrees southeast, sunset, sunrise at 270 degrees southwest, going in the exact opposite direction that the circle model sun should go in. You proved beyond the fact, but yet not one of these posters out there had anything, not even one word to say about that. Not one person talked about a single fact you presented.
Oh, you know what they said? Here's what they said. How do I know that those guys who sent me those videos were really in Australia and Tasmania? Or Jake, the sun was going down into a building. How do you know it wasn't going to go back? So even Dubé tried to pass that off. Do you realize he didn't make a response to me or hasn't mentioned me, but he did in one comment in one of his videos try to just go after a few things that I pointed out. One being that the sunset, you know, that was going down behind a building, so that didn't count. So I'm going to take Dubé apart in my next one, though, with the little comment that he sent me. And he also tried to say something about the magnetic declination, which Lori has a great response for that. You know, why don't we have to worry about that in the Northern Hemisphere?
Right.
Well,
Jake, here's the deal, okay? It didn't take you very long, and I'm proud of you that it didn't take you very long to not take it personally, okay? Because you know who you are, and you know where you came from, and you know what research you've done or haven't done, okay? The one thing that you have said that's been constant is that you can't stand being lied to. And that was where all that emotion came from. People tried to use you. People tried to punk you around. People tried to, you know, hook you into their gig, and you took it personally. And most people will. It hurts your heart. It hurts your soul when you trust someone or you want to trust someone. And then the next thing you know, you find out they've been using you or punking you in some way. And so I have emotions just like the next person, but I had to learn to separate fact from fear, fact from emotion, and not let it, you know, hold me back or stop me or shut me up, because, you know, I made it on Dubé's Show Wall of Shame practically a month after I got into Flat Earth. For why? For buying a website domain name that was the name of his book, coincidentally. And so from that point on, it's been nonstop, one person after another, calling me a shill, making funky memes, you know, putting words in my mouth that I didn't say, screen capturing things like me doing the 666 symbol and putting it all over the place when all I was doing was, once again, explaining Masonic hand signs that people are always talking about. But because I did it, bing, screen capture, go try to ruin Lori and call her a shill and call her a Mason. Well, number one, can't be a Mason because I happen to be a girl. And number two, this is how the game is played. Okay. You're not dealing with honest people who truly want good information. What you're dealing with is those people, and then all these other people over here who have an agenda to make sure that the information that you're trying to get out never sees the light of day. Okay. So you've quickly done a quick full circle and didn't take it personally. You got to ignore. You know how many times I've been called out for a debate? Poor Ronnie, event skeptic, shouts me out for a debate once a month. Okay.
Yeah. Those guys are.
And you know what I do? No. I don't hear you. I don't care. I'm never going to debate you. It's never going to happen because I already know you and I know your game, and it's not going to happen. So find somebody else to harp on. Find a new, punching bag or picture to put on your dartboard. You know, mine's got holes in it already from everybody else that's come before you. So, find a fresh face. And the point is that it takes courage to speak out. Now, if you speak out just to say some stupid thing, okay, then that's not really courage, except in your little micro world. But to shout out our channel, which is one of the most dreaded channels on YouTube for Flat Earth, took some courage. And thank you very much for doing that. Not that we are all about subs, because we've never really ever even talked about subs or asked for anybody to sub. You will never hear this channel, and this is different from what you're doing. You will never hear us at the end go, you know, like and sub and whatever all that jargon is that people always talk about.
It's just
we don't care.
Marketing shit. It's just that everybody's
okay.
got
We're not market.
No
we're not.
Kind of channel
we're not into marketing, and you are, and it's built you a lot of subs and a well-known name. I mean, you can't get any more well-known name than Flat Earth Asshole. So it's okay. That's everybody's got their own shtick. Okay, that just doesn't happen to be Lawrence and my shtick. So, or Thomas. But at the end of the day, if you know something and you don't tell people, to me, that's wrong. If you know that, you know, let's say, for example, you walk into a building and you see, you know, a big crack or something, and maybe nobody noticed it, or you smell, I smell gas. I shouldn't smell gas up in here. What do? You just go, oh, you know what? I think I'm just going to get out of here because this place is about to blow. No, you go, hey, somebody come over here. I smell gas over here. Okay. That's the right thing to do. Well, it's no different than you or I or Lawrence or Thomas saying, you know what? When you see somebody like Mark Sargent hold up a little flat piece of fiberboard backed with a circle map stuck on it in an interview and say, well, we don't really know how thick it is. We've only ever been able to drill down 8 miles. You know, throws out a whole bunch of jargon. Okay. Just all run together. And then that seems pretty innocuous on the surface. But then when you,
Are we all in agreement here that Mark, Eric, Matt, and Jaron have all been told these flaws for years now?
Oh, absolutely. There's no way they haven't been told the flaws. No way.
And they personally told them.
And well, there's a difference between ignoring it, Jake, and making excuses for it, and coming up with reverse engineered ad hoc theories and hypotheses to explain, well, it could be this, and it's a possibility it's that, and just keep adding on. Isn't that what they freaking did with the globe? That's exactly the methodology that they used to create the heliocentric model. Period.
So get this. I keep being told still, Jake, why didn't you just go to Jaron? You guys were friends. Why didn't you just go to Jaron and calmly let him know all these new things you found? It's like they aren't new things.
No, they're not new things.
Go to him and tell
I
him
just got done with 4.5 hours of debate with these two, with Jaron and David. And people said, out of the whole thing, well, you didn't do any very good job presenting Pac-Man. What has that got to do with the AE map? Pac-Man could be, you know, like the silliest thing you ever heard of 2 years from now. And I'll be the first one, if somebody poofs Pac-Man out the window, then I'll just say, okay, good on you. Now we can try something else. Okay. Now we can try to envision how else the sun might be getting from over there to over here magically.
Okay. They're not as familiar with the square and the Pac-Man. When Jaron has that debate with you, his audience is going to go, yeah, I'm more comfortable with the circle because that's what I know. I don't like the square thing. So therefore, sticking with the circle. So I made
Right.
that very clear in my video where I debunked the AE map just the other night. I said, even if you don't agree with somebody pushing a square or a diamond or whatever else, if they debunk the AE map, you can't ignore that. If Lord Stephen Christ says, you know, that the earth is concave, but then he turns around and debunks the AE map, you can't say that his debunking is insufficient.
Exactly.
Just because
he's an idiot
who thinks he's God.
Think of this as a security blanket, okay? This is my security blanket. There's my thumb in my mouth. And then I'm good. I can just stay with this, no problem, because your thing sounds weird, okay? And I'll just stay right here because I know this one. I've been practicing and watching videos for 2 years, and I know all the story. I know about the ice wall, and I know about the dome, and I know about the sun circling around, and I know all this stuff. I worked hard to learn all of that, okay? Really, that's no harder than you sat in grade school listening to your teacher go wah, 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 and the history and the English and the mathematics and the, you know, Columbus sailed in 1492, Columbus sailed, learn the little rhyme and then you'll get an A, okay? That's indoctrination. That's not research. That's never been researched. Do you know how much time it took Lawrence? Lawrence, just throw out there about how much time just you digging around in those stupid old maps and that stupid old Buffalo, you know, engraving company and so on. How many times have we already done this? And you dug it all up again and looked at it from another angle. How many hours was that? Does it make any difference at the end of the day? No, but you know what? Cumulatively, it makes a lot of difference because now we're getting what is called a preponderance of evidence. A preponderance of evidence puts people on death row, period. That's all it takes, a preponderance of evidence. Death row. Now, are you willing to go on death row for your, you know, hold on to your security blanket? No, because you haven't gotten out of your chair from in front of your YouTube screen to actually go out and check and see if any of this crap these guys are coming up with is actually true. You actually got to talk to people who live in Ushuaia. You actually got to go and look at videos and talk to people who live in Cape Town. What do you think we use Facebook for? Those are real people.
And you know what I'm noticing is so many flat earthers are become, I don't like to, you know, say it about flat earthers, but a lot of them have become so hard-headed that when you present evidence that goes against the sun circle map, they'll go as far as to go like, those people in Ushuaia are lying.
Totally.
The daylight hours on timeanddate.com and those places are wrong.
How about there's actually no South Pole? There's no South Pole. It doesn't exist. It's just an ice wall. All those videos and films and stuff you see from those stations down there in South Pole are actually, they're faking it and they're doing it up at the Arctic Circle. Really? How far does this conspiracy have to go to hide the truth when actually they don't have to do any of it because you already got 65,000 miles of frozen coastline guarded with military ships to shoot you out of the water if you even think about coming to Antarctica? That's what people believe. They actually believe that. It's guarded.
Jake, here's one.
Yeah.
Let me give Jake something to think about.
Got another lesson for the class, Jake.
Oh, Jake, so, all right. So the globe was a hoax whenever it was a few hundred years ago. But when they made the hoax, they had to keep everything they said about it as close as they could to reality. So they had to find explanations for the sun and the stars and everything else. But in terms of on the ground, they couldn't tell lies about how far it was from A to B because we'd guess. You know, we know how fast a car goes. You can get in your car and you drive 100 miles and you know it's 100 miles. And you can get in an aeroplane and fly 2,000 miles and you know from the airspeed that it's about 2,000 miles. So if I said to you, Jake, what is the furthest place you can actually go that's away from where you live now? What number would you put on it?
The furthest place?
You get in a plane and fly. What is the furthest away from where you live? Distance. How many miles?
Well, if it's what, 25,000 in circumference, then you can only go like what, half of that?
Exactly. Yeah. So the maximum distance you can go before it would be quicker to go the other way is just under 12,500 miles. But you have a look at any map, and you tell me what is the maximum distance between two places. So if I said, here's a Mercator map, what is the maximum distance between two places on that? What number would you put on that? If you went corner to corner on a Mercator, that's the maximum distance. How many miles do you think that is?
Corner to corner? That would be about 35,000 maybe. I don't know.
It's about 28,000 miles.
Oh, from across the equator, yeah.
In reality, you wouldn't do that because you would take the shorter route because the globe routes do exist. The shortcuts on the globe do exist because you can actually see them for yourself in real life. You know you can't travel more than 12,500 miles. But if you lived on a map that was fixed, and that's what it was, and it was, you know, and it was held in with ice walls or whatever, you know, and it was blocked off, you would have to go the long way all the time. But you don't. In reality, you can take those shortcuts, Jake. You can take shortcuts on whatever map it is, whether it's round, square, diamond, triangle. On these squiggly maps, you can take the shortcut on that map because you can in reality. So how can you take such a shortcut without something supernatural? On the globe, it's easy because it's going around in a circle. You can go clockwise or anti-clockwise. You can go either which way and take the shortest route. But on a square map, you can't.
Don't you think that's a mysterious? Don't you think that's mysteriously why this circle map was implanted? Because people still mentally are going in circles, and people don't have to take shortcuts on the circle map. And maybe that magic gets hidden.
Yeah, exactly. It does.
Could be a good point.
He said there are no shortcuts on the flat Earth, only with the globe. Well, the globe represents reality apart from the shape of the surface where we live. So the shortcuts on the globe, which isn't a globe, exist on the flat Earth, whatever shape it is. But those shortcuts can't work without something that's outside conventional science that we can comprehend. So we call it Pac-Man, but it could just as easily be, you know, the four-dimensional world. You know, the East wraps back onto West somehow. We don't know how it happens, and we probably never will. But that's what happens.
Well, and that's why people say, you can't prove Pac-Man. There's no way you could ever prove that the sun morphs, teleports, Pac-Man's, zooms, whatever, goes through Enoch's gates. There's a million different ways. What was her name? Goddess Nut, where it went in one end and came out the other. And we didn't dream this up. Others that have come before us dreamed up the same thing in order to try to explain on a flat Earth, because they believed it was flat when they dreamed it up. Okay, they know the sun comes in over here and goes out over there and mysteriously comes back over here again. The globe idea didn't even exist then. When they realized, how's that happening? So they depicted it in drawings of the goddess Nut, N-U-T, bent over the flat Earth, and the sun went in the vagina and came out the mouth. And that's how they described it, for lack of any other way to describe this phenomenon. Okay. So we didn't dream it up, and we didn't even come up with the term for Pac-Man. It's just a descriptive thing that everybody in our modern age can understand. When Pac-Man goes off one side of the screen, it immediately comes back in on the other. That's where it came from. There's nothing goofy about it. It's just a way to describe a phenomenon that we don't understand. Science doesn't understand.
Bruce was saying to me the other day, he was saying, well, isn't it crazy enough that there's something up there that's putting light on us and keeping us warm, and it's just at the perfect, and it goes in sky. Crazy enough that every day that the sun is up there, stays up there and goes across the sky. Like, isn't that crazy enough? So then when you say, oh, it doesn't go in a circle and then somehow it starts over again, whoa, that's too crazy. It's not crazy that there's something up there that goes across the sky every day.
I hear you.
And has been doing so since the beginning of time.
And sometimes it's over here, and sometimes it's over there.
We don't know why the hell it stays up there, how it works. I know a lot of flat earthers go, oh, electromagnetism, but they don't know. And so the fact that they don't even know what makes the damn thing work, and then you say, maybe it starts over again, or maybe we get a new sun each day. No, it has to go in a circle.
I got you, you know, and because here's the whole point of science and natural science, and then supernatural. Okay. The only difference between natural and supernatural is mankind himself put a definition on natural because it's observable, testable, repeatable. Supernatural kind of can't do that. Kind of don't have any ticket to that theater because you can't observe the supernatural. So how can you test it and how can you repeat it? It's supernatural. Okay. And so, but when you say the word supernatural, it's like, oh, no, you're talking about ghosts and spirits, and you're talking about, you know, prayer, and you're talking about, I mean, yeah, all that is supernatural. People have been healed supernaturally. They've gone to the doctor with cancer, and this is inoperable. You're not going to make it. And then they go home, and other than trying to keep a smile on their face and doing a whole lot of praying, they go back and they go, huh, it's gone. That mass that was the size of a grapefruit in your gut is now disappeared. And I don't have any explanation for that. We're not going to talk about it because there's no science for it. And that is supernatural. Simple. You either believe it or you don't believe it. You can ask doctors who've seen these kinds of things happen, and they write about it. They don't write about it in the medical journals, but, you know, might be a little side note down at the bottom somewhere. The bottom line is we have observations that we have to stick with. Things like how the sun moving and the stars moving and, you know, grass and sky and water, and that's all natural and we can observe it. You know, I was thinking about something really strange yesterday. I don't even know if I should even say it, but I'm going to. Are there any blind flat earthers? Does anybody know of any blind flat earthers? No, I'm not laughing about this. I'm serious. How would you be able to know a whole lot about a whole lot of things unless someone told you? Because there's too many observances you can't make. You can feel,
if you
hear,
were blind your whole
you can
life,
touch.
Your whole life. I can see.
Yeah, your whole life. Okay.
But
you were
then that
taught
goes
you
with
live on a globe, right?
That goes with everything, though, because they don't know what the color blue is.
I get
like
that.
Trying to even trying to describe any sort of
but my
visual type base thing.
exactly.
Well,
My
yeah.
point
If no one
is
told you
if
it was
you're
on the ball,
blind,
though.
if you're blind, you've never seen the ball. You've never even seen the pictures from NASA of the ball. Okay. You've been described to what the Earth is like, the planets, the universe, and everything, you know, the spinning and the vortexing and the flying and all that stuff. Okay. But if you're blind, you go outside and you go, I have heightened senses. I don't feel any spinning. I don't even feel the wind, the air moving. Okay. I don't feel it in my body. I don't feel anything. I feel when I'm moving when I'm on a ship. I feel when I'm moving when I'm sitting in a car. Most people don't think you feel that because they're just watching everything go by and they feel like they're sitting still. But you feel jostling and going over bumps and turning corners. You feel that. So you know you're moving. Okay. And so my point is, if you were told from birth and you're blind, everything about the world and the universe, and then somebody who's a flat earther comes along and says, you've been taught wrong. I'm sure there's blind people who have heard of flat earth. You've been taught wrong. This is how it is. Don't you think that person's imagination would probably be more acceptable of some of these phenomenon we're talking about than someone with sight and sight memory?
Interesting. I never thought about that.
Just thought about it. So, you know, I just kind of wanted to put that out there. Maybe there's a blind flat earther or someone who is blind, been blind all their life, who's heard about the flat earth and can, you know, add some information to that, because I think it would be interesting to study that. That's just me. So Jake, you've watched some of our videos, I'm sure. I've tried to share them with you there for a little while, tried to kind of cram it down your throat, you know, hey, watch this one, watch that one. And for the place you are now, okay, knowing you've snapped out of it, you've snapped out of the AE. What are the kind of things that we've worked on that you think are good proofs?
I think the ones where we can just break it down just very visually and easy, kind of like what got people on the AE map is how easy and visual it is. So you just have to easily and visually, kind of like with Cool Hard Logic, he took this like mathematical scientific approach of taking it apart, but then he also did some very like comedic ways of making it just look like a space pizza, you know, like it's just
right.
like clown map. So when you can point out like the very basic easy flaws, like the one Lawrence was just doing where the ice wall has detail underneath Australia and underneath South America, but then all the other parts don't even have any detail. See, stuff like that is very easy to see. It makes sense. The one I did with my phone app the other night, where I'm like, look, it's daylight in Ushuaia, and it's daylight all the way across the world on the other side over in Sydney, Australia. And so how can it be dark in the North Pole right in the middle? You see what I mean? It's like
right.
The very visual stuff. The distance one, I like to use the United States. And because since we live there and a lot of the people who watch our videos live in the United States, you just draw a line across. That's 3,000 miles roughly. And everybody knows that our country is about 3,000 miles across. So then when you take that measurement and then you put it, let's say, how many 3,000 mile United States can you fit between Santiago? And then you realize I'd be able to fit like 5 United States back to back to back to back. That's like 15,000 miles between Santiago and Sydney. And then you look it up.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
See what I mean? So that one's very visual, since there's a lot of people in the United States who watch Flat Earth videos. You draw the line right across there, mark it as 3,000. How many of these 3,000-mile markers, and then you can use that as a line, increment of measurement everywhere else to show that the distances are just completely out of whack. So anything you can do fast and easy and visually is what I like. That's what I like to include, the circle sun pattern not lighting up the right shape, how it has to change from like a circle shape to like a half pie shape, you know, throughout the year in order to light up the proper amount of space on that map. See, stuff like that, it's very visual and easy, because I think that's what got people on the AE map, was seeing the sun go around it in a circle.
You think?
You know what I mean?
Wow,
those
this is
graphics.
I mean,
those graphics.
I mean, that is so ridiculous, Jake, isn't it? Yeah. If you look at the, you know, you've got 24 hours of daylight in Antarctica right now. So if a sun was able to light up the entire outer ring, then everybody everywhere within that ring would also have 24 hours of daylight, but we don't. So that alone debunks the map.
Well, here's the other thing, Jake.
I would recommend to you guys. I would just, one recommendation: you guys do these long hangouts to where then it's 3-4 hours. People automatically go, nope, not going to watch. And then your information is spread out throughout this long video. So I would recommend even going back and taking the clips of you got your best stuff and then compiling it together a little more, you know what I mean, to where it's a little more focused in, like, here's the sunsets and angles, boom, show it. Here's the daylight hours dilemma, boom, show it. That way it's not like what we're doing now.
Believe me,
hours of chit chat and banter, because people say the same thing to me. Jake, I like your regular videos that you edit, but I don't like watching your live streams that are 2-3 hours long where you just bullshit.
Well, let me just say this: if there's anybody out there listening, or knows somebody out there who's listening who does video edits, I would be happy to compensate anyone who, there you go, Jake, you'd be perfect to take these videos, these 2-3 years of videos with some really awesome information, download them, edit them for content, make little short clips out of them, and send me the clips, or let me, you know, tell you what to title them and blah, blah. Because I work full time and I've got access to all of this information and all of this data. The best I've been able to do is make playlists out of it. If someone really wants to dig in and watch them in speedy time, you know, 2 times fast, and then stop on the good stuff, we have over 2 million listens and downloads on Hipcast and iTunes of our shows. The example is, and they're not even seeing anything. It's just an MP3 or whatever. And
that's crazy. You get that many on there. Wow.
It's huge. Been doing it since we started. And you know, you put Flat Earth in iTunes and there we are. And it took a long time to get there, but those are all people who are sitting at work with their, you know, earbuds in, listening to us talk and explain things, and they don't even get to see it. And I get messages all the time from people that say, you know, I love how really down to earth research you are. And you know, you just, you don't make stuff up and you question everything and blah, blah. Okay. One of the very first things that got Lawrence hell-bent to debunk the AE map was the humiliation that he felt after he watched that first Cool Hard Logic video. Because that's opposition research. If you never watch what the other guy's saying about you, okay, imagine yourself in a political campaign, all right? And there's you and Joe Black, and you're both running for mayor, okay? And you really don't know anything about Joe Black's personal stuff and historic voting record and what he owns and what he does. And you're going to put a team of people on finding out everything you can find about Joe Black. You may even have a little side fund for a private investigator to get some dirt on Joe Black. And don't think he's not doing the same thing to you. Okay. So I look at opposition research as vitally important to know more about you than you probably recognize about yourself. And so watching a video, you know, now somebody like Vsauce, he's just like, that's like dumb, you know, he's and it's, you know,
I was debunking those guys easily.
Yeah, that's not good debunk.
It wasn't a problem. When I went up against Cool Hard Logic, I was the only guy that took him on in that first video.
Yeah, and you can get your hat handed to you.
Try to formulate a defense against that guy in what he was saying. And I ultimately had to admit that the map was flawed and wrong even in the video.
Mm-hmm. and so there you go. Okay. So I've been asked to come on podcasts, radio shows from other people. One of the reasons is because they heard my podcast, me and Lawrence, and asked me to come on and explain flat Earth without all the crap, because that's what they wanted. And I've done that. And I never had to mention Pac-Man or maps or anything other than don't be disarmed if you go looking into flat Earth and you start seeing these funny little circle maps and models and Frisbees and pizzas that people fell for, because that's not actually how it works. Okay. But I focus on, you know, eye level horizon line and no spinning and Michelson-Morley and, you know, the real actual scientific explanations for why most people that become flat earthers, how they got there. So, Thomas, when you, and I'm going to ask all three of you guys this, when you recently saw I think there was a BBC and an NBC or ABC local affiliate at the conference, when you saw the news media reports, after they clipped everything out of it and the little bits that they put in, on a level or on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being most cringeworthy, and 1, it was like, it was coverage. How did you feel after you watched a couple of those mainstream news reports?
Absolute garbage. It was just, publicity was just an excuse to get people to laugh at us. No, it's trash. I felt every time I see something like that, every time someone's going public, that's all I can do is cringe. I can't even finish watching the whole thing because on this Frisbee and everything else. And I'm like, but I've shown you for years now that this stuff is wrong. Why are you still going public with this? I mean, these people, I personally contacted these people, Eric Dubay, Matt Powerland, all these other cats. Messages, very polite messages, nothing degrading whatsoever, and just fact-filled. You know, and saying, hey, I got this problem. To Eric Dubay, I didn't get one single response. It was immediately blocked and kicked out of his group. And I'm like,
I've heard that over about him, over and over.
And these guys, that tells me right there, they know for an absolute fact they've been addressing these same issues now for years. But here's the thing: these guys got money tied up in this. They got books tied up into it, T-shirts, little flat Earth clocks, little flat Earth snow globes. I mean, you're not realizing just how much money these people have tied up in this stuff. And so to come out and say,
and if they're being paid by the government,
yeah,
then there's that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And in the same way with Jared, and, you know, I've sent him my information, some of what I felt was the best information, and I've got tons of facts. You know, Lori Lawrence and I just did 2 3-hour videos of nothing but various facts that just utterly blow this map out. But here's the thing, your cognitive dissonance is so strong that, I mean, that's the first thing when I put out, like, say I'll make a post and, you know, well, let me say, first of all, here's my belief. The earth is flat, it's stationary, and it's intelligently designed. I don't know the final shape. Yes, I promote a diamond, I promote a Pac-Man, but every time I do, the first thing I put at the very top of each post, and you can go back on my page and look, it's telling you, in my opinion, this is where my research has led me. I'm not claiming this to be true. But yeah, so I promote these various things, but yeah, we need to concentrate on what we know for an absolute fact. And like we said, we know for absolute fact that the sun is not circling. We know when we look at the celestial sky that we can see the equator go perfectly straight, and I can watch Cancer bend to the north, and I can watch Capricorn bend to the south. And the same way, when you showed the sunset, Jake, the Australian sunrise is at 207, or the Australian sunset was at in the south. Both of them were in the south.
Yeah,
because that's which way Capricorn bends.
265, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Because that's what way Capricorn bends. When you stand on the equator and look, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna say every person on the equator and south of the equator is all lying? That every time lapse ever made is photoshopped and.
Or what Jaron says, it's a perspective issue, but only for people in the southern.
No, it's not. Yeah, only for half of the map.
Only for that 10% of the human population that lives south of the equator. Most people have no idea that 90% of the human population lives north of the equator. So what they see and what the guys
problem.
Right, they don't.
And so if you look at that Gleason map, though, the Gleason map is showing you that you have a Cancer circle in one direction. You have an equator circle that's a little bit bigger. Capricorn circle that's even a little bit bigger, but all 3 circles are going in the exact same direction. But yet when I stand on the equator's going straight, Cancer's going north, Capricorn's going south every time. That's what I know for a fact. Like diamond, yes, I believe, or a UTM, but I can't prove that just yet. But what I do know is everybody in the world says the sun rises in the east and it sets in the west, and that's what it does. I can't explain. I have my theories about how it gets to the other side. I'm not here to prove a Pac-Man. I'm here to prove that there is a wolf among us. They're setting up a straw man. So they can come in whenever they want, and they can kick down this straw man and say, "Oh, look how dumb you guys are. Look how dumb these flat earthers are. They think there's a big old ice wall, and they think all this circling sun nonsense. South Pole stars." Matter of fact, let me bring that up. Lawrence, can you do me a favor? Can you bring up a Gleason map and just put it on the screen? I want to ask our viewers, for those who are seeing this, I want you to look at, for those flat earthers who have a problem, but the circle. Now let's look at Lawrence's screen here. Pull up Lawrence's screen here.
I got it.
Okay,
it's presenting.
Okay, here we go. Okay, now let's say I'm standing down in the lower tip of South America. Lori is standing down on the lower tip of South Africa, and Lawrence is standing on the lower tip of Australia. All 3 of us are looking south.
Zoom back out a little bit again,
yeah,
Lawrence, please, so you can see the whole 3 locations.
Right.
There.
Okay.
Yeah, pull it down. There you go. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect. Okay, so I'm standing down at the lower tip of South America. Lori's standing at the lower tip of South Africa. and Lawrence is standing in Australia. All three of us are facing south, but yet, geographically speaking, we are all three facing three different directions for starters. Now, here's the thing. I want to see the star Sigma Octantis, which is the star that is closest to the South Pole. Now, all three of us can see that star from our position. All three of us are facing south. All three of us can see that star. How is that possible? It's not. That map is false. It's absolutely impossible. You can't just stretch out Antarctica and say there's no continent there. It's a giant ring now. All three of us are looking in different directions. All three of us see Sigma Octantis. How is that possible?
Well, I mean, we've all
Where's
seen
the South Pole?
Well, for one thing, we're actually not seeing Sigma Octantis. We're seeing the circle of stars that surround it. Right. Okay. But we've seen star trail footage. I have a copy of an award-winning photograph from Cape Town looking south of perfect star trails. The location has been verified by a person who lived there and said, yes, this is exactly the spot where this was taken, perfect star trails. Paul Kofo has taken beautiful star trail photography and videography from, dang it, he's not a Kiwi, he's an Australian, right? Yeah, Australia. And we have all seen star trails from the south of South America. How are all three of those people seeing perfect circular star trails? Now, there's people who will say personal dome. What are you doing, Lawrence? You
He's not a snipping tool.
He's got a snipping tool out.
Yeah, they're just totally avoiding. They're acting like there are no South Pole stars.
Everybody's got a personal dome. Yeah, that was a personal dome. That was one Jaron suggested. I've seen these little convex glass things where people will put it against here and show the star trails and say, see how it's reflecting? That's why they see it that way. There comes a time when you literally have to dig up as many comparable photo images from as many different locations and people as you can, just in case one of those sons of bitches has been faking something. Okay. But all the rest of them, you have 10 people over here and 10, all these people who have been to Antarctica and talk about the midnight sun. And yet there is no Antarctica, there is no South Pole, and none of those people are real. That's all fake. At some point, you have to trust some of this information. I don't care if it's Stellarium or SunCalc or timeanddate.com. Use them all. Compare all of them. Because if they're taking the time to confer with each other through some AI technology to make sure that all their stuff matches up, okay, good for them. You know, this is the next level of fakery of flat Earth. But okay, Lawrence.
Yeah,
I want to ask you. Okay, I wanted to ask you the same question before we moved on.
Okay. Yeah,
about how. Okay, go ahead, Lawrence. Do your thing. Which one is it going to be?
Well,
you answer the question or you do the thing?
Let me just tell you about what I thought about it. Yeah, well, it was deliberately done to make fun of flat Earth, because it started off with that old guy in his 60s or 70s who got blue and yellow shoes like a clown, and his car was all decked out like a really extreme hippie. And then it went over to something else, and then it finished off with Mark Sargent saying, yeah, but I could have just come out of a lunatic asylum. And it was simply poking fun at the whole thing. And obviously these press conferences, all the spokesmen are pushers of the false model, all of them. So yeah, that was the intention. We were pointing this out 2 years ago. When it goes mainstream, you know, it's going to be a, you know, one of these agent channels giving their version, which is wrong. But let me go over to this, Jake. You're over in Sydney, Australia, mate, and you've got a boat.
Yeah.
And I want you to go down to the tip of South America, and I want you to tell me what route you're going to take. How are you going to get there?
That big, long-ass 15,000-mile trick, obviously.
What route are you going to take?
There's only one route.
How are you going to plan your trip, put down all your coordinates, plot a map, course, so on and so forth, have enough gas, know where you're going to stop in order to get refueled on the way there, and so on.
Jake,
which way are you going to go, Jake?
On this map, Jake, east-west is going in a circle, so it's not your conventional east-west. East-west in a straight line doesn't exist if you believe in this model. So if you can give me...
But you can still fly in a straight line. You don't have to fly in curved lines.
Well, you can fly or take a boat in a straight line. But how are you going to plot this course? What are you going to write down the course you plotted? I'm going to go left on the circle until I get to. Do you hear what I'm saying? I'm going to go west. Well, which way's west? Which way's east?
Actually, you're going to go south. You would have to start out going south, because you're going to follow the equator or that line down there, whatever tropic that is.
That's the Tropic of Capricorn.
Yeah, you're going to follow Capricorn south.
Yeah, but when you get to say there, yeah, if you go from there to there, going around in a circle, so you're going around in the circle. That's going from east to west, but it's also going south. So which is which?
And if you go south from Australia, you'll never get there.
This is a good one.
So, Jake, I want you to just give me your, you're blindfolded in your boat, but I'm steering, yeah, and you've thought about it before. Which way are you going to head?
Okay, so if I'm in Australia right there and I'm heading to South America, so yeah, then I gotta, on that map you would say I would go to the east.
I've got my compass.
Following my compass to the east, and it would bend me around.
Even though the east goes down, even though the east goes south.
Yeah, but that, you have to. I would turn the map and keep orienting it to myself to where the south was always down.
Yeah, buddy.
I would just.
So Jake, do you have the captain's table? Where they plot the courses, and they have their, their rulers and straight arms and all that, and the degrees and the sextants and all that stuff. Is this map laying on the table, or is there a square map laying on the table?
I don't see why anybody use that circle map to try to navigate. Do
you know how many flat earthers say that this Gleason map, this AE map, is used by sailors to plot courses and to go places?
Oh yeah, they tell me that the military uses it. Eric Dubé's verbatim says the USGS uses this map, and it is the flat Earth map. So then when you guys and I debunk it, they say, Jake, no one ever said it was perfect. He said it is the map.
If it's not perfect, then how come there's not more than one Bermuda Triangle full of sunken ships that never made it to wherever they were going? Because do you understand the vast amount of ocean that go look at the journeys of Captain Cook. Do they ever plot those on a circle map, or do they show it to you on a UTM or Mercator type map? where he went up to the north, and then he went back down to the south, and then he went all around to Haiti and all these islands, and all over the place. But no, and he went supposedly 65,000 miles on his journey. Well, if you look at the courses that he took, he's all over the freaking place. And they're saying that same 65,000 miles of journey was spent sailing all around that little ice circle around the outside, looking for a way past the ice wall. I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you just go, really? I mean, do you have any evidence for this whatsoever? Any at all? All right, Lawrence.
I guess I'm the last one to have to answer your question.
Yeah.
I did want to make a point about because you asked about the cringeworthiness of
1 to 10. How cringeworthy was it?
Of these there's 2 interviews that I give a 9, and I'm reserving a 10 for much worse. So I give a 9 to Mark Sargent with the BBC interview, and the way that BBC edited that up, like you said, they found that guy named Happy
the clown,
like
Happy Traveler.
They zoom in on his shoes. They zoom in on the fact that he's living out of his car, right? Mm-hmm. And then they pair that up with Mark Sargent, who of course has the AE map and says, it could be this dimension for all we know. You know what I mean? So, and then he says he escaped from a mental asylum. So enough, I was making fun of this a few videos ago. Happy started leaving comments on my YouTube page. Happy the clown started getting pissed off at me and started, so I guess Happy is a real guy, and he wasn't real happy that I was making fun of him and saying that he made us look like a clown. So that's interesting enough. And then, in defense of Happy, he is a real guy. This is the way he chooses to dress. He did go to the conference. He does probably, either live in his car or has a lot of his belongings in his car. And he deserves to dress and do and be however he wants. But of all the people that they could have picked, they picked Happy. Okay. Yeah.
Now,
and
that is with full intention by the videographer and the news reporter who had the camera and the notepad and said, all right, we got to get this guy. Yeah.
The BBC also chose Mark Sargent to finish off that thing. You know what I mean? And Mark, to me, is the most obvious one of all. You know what I mean? He plays that dumb character to a T. And I think the other video that I think did just as much damage was when Nathan Thompson did that mainstream documentary. And then the guy baited him into debunking himself. The one guy said, why don't you show me how the flat earth works with this Frisbee and this flashlight? So then he gladly takes the Frisbee and the flashlight and does one of these, and then you instantly debunk yourself. And then he said shit like, I think that the FBI and the CIA have a target on my back. And so I think
the big conspiracy theorist angle
And that one right there, so that one got like 5 or 6 million views. And then this BBC one that Mark Sargent did at the time a week ago when I was making fun of it, it was up to 4 million. I would guess by now 10 million people or so might have seen that. And when people say any attention is good attention for the flat earth, I say no, that's not true at all. Because 10 million people aren't going to go, hey, maybe I should look into that. They're going to go, that's what those people believe?
Yeah, because I just got out of prison. Or I just got out of the mental institution myself. Maybe the flat earth people are the count for me.
See, that's what nobody thinks, hey, I'm going to look into that. And so that's why I think this media attention is shit attention. And I'm going to say it's a 9 on the cringe scale because I'm going to save a 10 for this scenario. If by chance Eric Dubé ever goes on TV and then hails Hitler just after he loses a debate against Neil deGrasse against Neil deGrasse with the circle map and gets taken apart, and then on his way out the door he hails Hitler, I'm saving the 10 for that.
Okay. That would be
They've
10,
always done
10
that.
worthy.
That's a 10 has to be the tippy top of the scale.
That's
Yeah.
possible.
You know what I mean?
That's possible too. You
A
might
A
see
10,
that.
a 10 would be Matt Boylan going on and melting down on TV, and then having them prove that he never worked for NASA on TV, and then having him just melt down and ramble like a crazy, incoherent person that we all know he can be. And see, to me, that's like the 10. We haven't quite reached 10. And I think
But
that's
don't think that they are not available for it, okay? Because at any given moment, any of those things could occur. I watched a few minutes of Flat Earth Reset 3. Flat Earth Reset 3 last night.
I'm very familiar with
I zoomed through. He had a quick 5-part series I zoomed through. And aside from his commentary, which he's completely entitled to his opinions about what people think, what he thinks about what people have been saying and so on doing, he does play the exact clip of what he's commenting about. And so you have your own opinion about, context and the actual words that these people say, like Bob and Jaron talking about FE core, which for those of you who aren't aware, FE core is supposedly a new funding and projects source that the Globebusters crew has come up with. Interestingly enough, though, when the clips were put together, that Flat Earth Reset, shout out to you, said is that FE core, FE does not stand for flat Earth, and that there won't be any flat Earth stuff on the website or any of that. That FE stands for field engineers. So it's Field Engineers Core Group. And the reason Flat Earth will not be mentioned on the website or, events or whatever is because they might get poo-pooed for government funding or corporate sponsors if they have Flat Earth stuff all over it. And so why even call it FE? Don't act like for a second that everyone in the flat Earth wouldn't assume that it means flat Earth. Okay.
Exactly.
Because duh, FE. And then second, if you're going to put together experiments, which was what they talked about in these clips, and I guess it was talked about on Globebusters and perhaps at the conference. I'm not exactly sure where Flat Earth Reset grabbed these clips from, but they're not going to specifically be flat Earth experiments. There's lots of different projects that have to do with agriculture and weather and other things. And so my point is it's really important to listen closely to what people say. And if something doesn't sound quite right to you, it probably isn't. And if you've got a group of people who are taking it upon themselves to start a funding an organization that looks to me like Flat Earth Society 2.0, please be sure that before you contribute your hard-earned money, what it exactly is that they're going to do, and don't be contributing based on personalities, past history, and what they say they're going to do.
They've already been fairly secret. They're even saying they're not going to reveal all the scientists' names because the scientists who are involved don't want they don't want to be known. That doesn't make me feel good, but how would anybody want to donate to this? It's like, I want to know that people like somebody like a Brian Mullen or somebody like with a credential who I'm familiar with or whatever is involved, because I know Jaren's not a scientist. I know Bob's not a son, even though they want to call themselves scientists or researchers. You can't just say Jaren and Bob and Rob Skiba are going to perform all these experiments with the government's money and whatever, right? So who are going to do it? And they say, oh, well, we don't have to give all the names of all the different scientists and researchers who are going to help us, and it's to protect their identity. I got to call bullcrap on that.
Well, the only reason why I brought it up is because I don't consider myself, just a fill in the blank kind of thinker. Okay. When I see FE core, I immediately assume, and I'm sure 99% of everyone else did too, that FE core stands for flat earth core and not field engineer. And so that's a little more than a little misleading. And, they have explained it, had their, Q&A or whatever. I also found it quite interesting that they just put out a brand new website with zero content on it, except we're gonna. And by gosh, they won a Flatty Award for that. That's pretty
before any of us even knew who they were or that it existed.
That's pretty amazing.
They won an award.
So, there are people out there who are taking the time to break down not just flat earth and flat earth proofs. There are people out there who are taking the time to break down the people putting out the information about flat earth, and that people are coming along and believing, or just, groupie getting behind whatever. Okay. And the cringeworthiness to me of having one of these spokespeople as the go-to people for the most interviews and the most, pumping up who they are and making gurus out of them and so on and so forth. Don't think for a second that there hasn't been a plan in the making for quite some time for a flat earth reality TV show, or because Math Powerland talked about that to me nearly 3 years ago. I think it's a matter of
time before Mark and Patty appear on Netflix or something like that.
Some kind of a documentary.
Morons beyond belief. That'll be a 10 cringeworthy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. And then let's put them in white goddess dresses and what's his name? Gosh, Elton John glasses and clown shoes. Okay, let's go all out on all of that. There will be nothing the rest of us will be able to say about it if we don't say something before it happens. Okay. Sometimes you have to predict a little bit about the possibilities and the probabilities of the direction that some of these things have been in the making. Okay. We've already said we thought it was rolled out as a psyop. We already said that we believe that as this map and model were an integral part of this psyop. We already know that there are people who were put in place to help roll this all out with fancy clues and books and books on tape and whatever else. All right. This thing was not organic in the least. So what happened afterward became organic because of the people that got associated with it, the real people. But as a grassroots versus astroturf, grassroots, this was not grassroots driven. And now, if you have these factors in place, you gotta know that they got a head start on a bigger plan. Now, it can go one of two ways. They could have wanted flat Earth to come out so that they could create a new concept that's not NASA and outer space driven. That is the ETs. There are ETs, but they're like over there and over there. We got to protect you from them. So, we got to keep our whole like control system in place because they're out there. And we've been knowing about this for years, and we've been protecting you all from them up to now. Add to that, it could go the other way, and they could completely crash and burn flat Earth right into the sewer, and using these scenarios to be able to do it. So I don't know what their agenda is and their overall plan. We're just plugging along, trying to figure it all out. But whether it was rolled out,
a national TV debate, controlled style between one of the top personalities and Neil deGrasse or Bill Nye,
or all of them,
the absolute biggest black eye we could all possibly imagine. And with the icing on the cake, if Dubé was to ever hail Hitler on TV or say anything to that nature about Hitler being a wonderful, awesome guy, we all instantly fall under that same veil. And it could be 10 million people watching at once, 20 million people watching at once. I've brought this up probably 20 different times to try to get it to never happen.
Well, that's what I was just going to say, Jake, is the more you predict and try to think through all the possible scenarios and voice them, there is always going to be someone, that had a plan, and then you put the kibosh to it by saying it out loud. Oh, what if they do this? And then they're like, oh, wah, 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 goes this, the game show music. We got to try plan B now, because if we do that, it's going to be too obvious that that's what we did. So, okay, I'm going to start wrapping up our 33 reasons that the whatever AEs crap. I have one kind of closing thought, and I'd like to see what you guys think about it. What if we stopped? What if we know what we know now, and we all just went on our own way and kept doing our own private research and kept it to ourselves and decided, we're going to just quietly sneak off the stage left and have our own little quiet group and keep investigating and researching until we figure out something massive, or until whatever falls from the sky they do with their whole promotion of flat Earth. What happens if we stop? And should we stop? Should we stop trying to express our thoughts and our feelings about flat Earth? Whoever
want me to go first?
Whoever, go ahead.
Well, I actually would go the other way. You mentioned the other night in a text to me that maybe a unification of us against the AE map would be something we could do. Like getting channels to just systematically jump on board with denouncing it and boycotting it, to where I think rather than not talking about it, I think I think talking about it has got this issue to come back up again, and more people now are jumping off the AE map than ever in flat Earth right now. So I think to really get the ball rolling, and screw it, pun intended, that we could try to get other channels to unite with the same idea. You know what I mean? I already put this message out to ODD that if he was to denounce the AE map, the game would change like instantly, that we could get half or more of the entire you know, flat earther existence to jump off. I think if somebody like him or a few more would just jump on.
What are you laughing at, Lawrence? I got to hear this. What was that snicker for? ODD?
No, I just wanted to play something because
okay, hold on, let him finish.
I'm going to play a short clip.
Hold on, let him finish his thought. Let him finish his thought. Then it'll be your turn.
What I meant was he has a big audience.
All right, so you say we should, instead of just being quiet and going about our own business and leaving everybody alone to their AE map and their AE gurus, that we should try to promote a unification package, and that is just to get everybody to say, okay, you know, you can make all the videos you want about all the topics related to flat Earth, but just don't push this circle model with the circling sun and moon and ice wall and snow globe.
And definitely don't sell it and continue shoving it as if it's truth. And then the channels who are doing it, disassociate yourself with them. You know what I mean? There has to be the dollar bills leaving the wallets from the people who are still selling it. Like, you know, when I met IPS, he showed me he was selling like 100 different things, everything from just straight up posters of the AE map. You know what I mean? If I can get you to go to my website and buy a poster of the AE map instead of going to his website, then I'm making money. You know what I mean? Gotcha. So anybody who's selling it on a shirt or on a poster, and has it in a book or has it on their logo, it's like they need to take it in the wallet from the people disassociating with them, and people need to disassociate from it because it's not true. So I think if channels systematically said, I'm going to jump in with flat earth asshole, flat earth conspiracy, Serbian conspiracy, and what have you, all, you know, the channels that are going against it.
Darren Nesbitt, Daznez, yeah.
Yeah, Darren Nesbitt, yeah, exactly. To where if the names just kept piling up and piling up and piling up, oops, who else? Oh, another person jumped? Because I feel like it's like once you leave the circle, you don't go back. It's like once you go flat, you don't go back. Well, once you ditch the AE map, you don't go, oh, I screwed up. It is a circle. So, you know what I mean? So I think that
okay, duly noted.
Able to get popular channels to just systematically jump in with us, then I think you would notice the tide would turn, and that all these things that used to happen to you guys, you know, getting called out and being called shills, will happen less and less, you know, if more channels jump on board. I mean,
at least call us a shill for another reason than that. Okay, good. Lawrence, show us what you got.
Yeah, well, I think these big name channels, I think they're starting to hedge their bets a little bit. And if it does transpire that they're forced to ditch the AE map, they want to have control of whatever map is commonly agreed on. I'm just going to play you a short clip and everybody will see what I mean. And this is complete bullshit that's being said. Just watch it. I'm only going to play 3 minutes. Hang on, let's put the sound on.
Okay, all right, so let me go back over to my screen and start there. I have to get used to this because Zero actually shares his screen a lot more, so I'm getting a little bit faster at this. Oh, hey, no, don't ever apologize, Zero. I got the controls here, and I may even learn a little bit more about OBS so that I can do this a little bit easier. The standard screen share. But anyway, next thing up was, I really like this guy's work, Flat Earth Crush. He's fairly new. He doesn't have a lot of subs, but he did a really good 2 videos where he's debunking and disproving the 4D Flat Earth model. And of course, he has a lot of the same objections that you brought up when you were talking with Lori Furry and the other guy, whatever, Darren Nesbitt, yeah. And he kind of elaborates on it a little bit more, but he goes through most of the models, and basically it comes back to, what is the good model? And he believes that it's the AE. And let me state for the record right now, guys, I don't care what people are saying about, you're shill if you believe in the AE model. I'm going to tell you why I believe the model is actually the best model. And that is primarily because it works, okay? It is used by several people. It's used by shipping companies. It's used by pilots. It's used by ham radio operators. It's used for so many things, and overall, it actually works. You know, the Gleasons may not be precisely right on, and that is exactly why several of us are trying to kind of fine-tune that map. But the bottom line is overall it works. Now, people that try and debunk it with the idea of, well, because the sky doesn't match what's going on with the ground, simply don't understand what's going on with the sky. And I'm not saying that we do either in its entirety. However, there are several other factors and demonstrable things that Iru has demonstrated, that Rob Skiba has demonstrated, several people have demonstrated. I've talked about, you know, with EM effects like the Faraday effect and stuff like that, that bring the AE map much more into the realm of a good possibility and probability, right? So again, it's like the people that say, oh, the AE map doesn't work, or, you know, we can't be on a flat Earth because of the fact that you have stars rotating around, you know, Polaris. Well, I think, you know, a lot of people have done enough work on that, that there is enough reason to doubt that those things are legitimate excuses for debunking the flat Earth map that, you know, as far as I'm concerned, they've been debunked. And what we need to look at now is understanding the atmospheric conditions that give us our perspective of the apparent position of the sun and the moon and the heavens. And once we start getting a little bit better grasp on that, and this is something also that the FE Core group is working on, Dr. Zach and Mike Kavanaugh and Steve Torrance have come out with a video, you know, talking about how this could conform to the toroidal field of the Earth's natural EM field, which I have talked about.
Zach was a fraud from the beginning.
So, in other words, what people are trying to do is they're trying to debunk the AE map by looking at the sky without really understanding all the phenomenon that go on in the sky.
Right, or they said that the continents are misshaped, which has got to be the most hilarious thing I've ever heard, as if they have seen the continents and the way they look, and so, oh, look at this one's spread out, and this one's too big, and this one's too skinny. I just don't think that they completely get it. And like you said, Bob, what Bob just said, he didn't say anything about don't research a square map, don't research the diamond map, because we know that everyone else is researching, and whatever their research has led them to, they should continue on that path until they find something that is untenable. For us, we have not found that yet, and we don't have any problem with anybody else searching different maps. But again, yeah, Lori asked me to stop mentioning the AE map, stop showing it, to go away from the map. I almost laughed in her face and said, no, you're going to tell me what I'm going to research and what I'm going to talk about in my videos? Sorry, that's not going to work. I'm going to keep doing what I've done the whole time. And when I find that the AE map is untenable, then you won't see me present it anymore.
Yes,
absolutely. And I can make a comment about the Gleason map, because I have noticed this kind of behavior, and we talked in the room before the day of the presentation of the Globebuster. I don't know if you remember, Bob.
Yeah, well, Bob goes on to say, he goes on to say that he's explained the diamond map better than you, Laurie, but I've never heard him explain it at all.
Well, I would just, for one time, really like to actually see or hear the debunking. I mean, we just lost Lawrence. He'll be back. I mean, debunking means showing evidence against and, you know, breaking down the false premise behind whatever it is that you're saying. Okay. Debunking is not just, you're debunked. That does it.
Saying it.
Game over. I declare you debunked. Okay. And then that's it. Okay. So all I asked Jaron to do was stop using the symbology of the AE map. He can research whatever the hell he wants, but don't sit there and say that you can explain 4D or Pac-Man when you never have. Okay. And until you do, you haven't. Okay. I want to hear it. I want to actually hear you say it. And I want you to show me this marvelous debunking. You just show somebody's video. You don't play the video. You don't let us hear or even try to paraphrase the debunking. So, I'm sorry. I don't accept the debunking. Okay. Period. Done.
You got to remember who Bob is. I met Bob in Denver, and he literally is just the walking, talking Robin to Jaren's Batman tour. He just recites all the popular flat Earth stuff. He goes, "The sun is 3,000 miles high and 30 miles wide." And I said, "Dude, how the hell do you know that?" And he's like, "I checked it with a sextant." It's like I personally.
Well, where's your research? Show us this video of you doing that. You can't just say I did it. It's like, oh, okay, that's good. Are you going to do that with the field engineer core thing? Just, well, we did this experiment. Here were the results, and now give me money. Okay, we want to actually see the valid proof. We actually want to see the process.
I dealt with him. I met him in person in Denver when I put on my Flat Earth gathering. Interesting enough, I set up a Flat Earth gathering in Denver, and then Bob from Globebusters and ODD shows up, and Mark Sargent started promoting it. So I almost felt like my Flat Earth gathering got taken over in a way.
Yeah, well, that's another.
It was fun.
That's another method. Okay. Now, Lawrence, you never did say. I'm sorry.
He was going around telling everybody the sun goes around in a circle, like who disagreed with, because we'd gotten a few debates with people there who were just asking what we were doing there. But he was telling them the sun's 3,000 miles high, 30 miles across, and it's just that same typical info. And it's, to me, it's called tired, and it's called cult washing. These guys have proved it.
It's called cult washing, Jake.
Across.
Okay, so Lawrence, the question was, should we just go quiet and do our own research and keep it to ourselves, and everybody else can just figure it all out for themselves, or do we continue what we've been doing and sharing this information with other people and continuing to harp on this false model and why it matters?
Well, hopefully with Jake chipping in and attracting because Jake's got a different audience to what we have. Then this hangout will probably get a lot more on YouTube. It might not get much more on the podcast. Maybe throwing the AE map out is going to have a life of its own, and it won't particularly need us because there will be lots of other people pointing out the faults, and there's more and more people coming in pointing out the faults. So we may end up just focusing on the model and looking at trying to find out what it is, because ultimately that's what we want to know. We want to know what it is, but we can't move forward with it in terms of the wider audience because we haven't got an agreed model that everybody accepts, and we've got huge opposition by everybody, literally everybody at the top table, who are all singing to the same hint sheet, and they're not all stupid. They must know that they're pushing a busted model. It's so obviously a joke, but they still do it. Obviously Mark Sargent's turning it into a big joke. You watch the programs he puts out with Pat Steer. It's like coffee chat, isn't it?
Coffee talk.
No, nobody has any content these days. All the flat Earth shows are, criticizing all the flat Earth shows about what they've said. The whole content is basically that, and there's very little content about where we actually are. Which is what we want to know. Where are we in the scheme of whatever it is? Well,
how do you expound on simple, Lawrence? I mean, how much more can you add to a disk, and a circling sun, and an ice wall? I mean, it's defined. It's,
even if that's what it was, we were running out of content. even if it is a circle map with a dome, I notice content creators across the board were just repeating the same shit.
Sure, they have been for years.
Views across the board have dropped. If you look at Jaren, he only gets 15,000 views. Dubé only gets 20,000 views. I mean, these guys with over 100,000 subs don't get the views they used to anymore. It's because they're just still saying the same thing.
Well, I mean, we are too, in essence, repeating, but each month or so, you know, we do add more content as far as here's more logic to why this is wrong. And we have continued to expand upon the diamond concept and the Pac-Man concept and so on. But there are limits to that because you're over there in the supernatural. You know, it's pretty hard to prove, Thomas knows, pretty hard to prove ether, right? And things like electromagnetism and dielectric this and all of, you know, all of these very scientific combinations of words. Yeah, it's pretty difficult. You can't talk to mainstream people about all that stuff because there's so much background that goes into it to try to, you know, put it in like the Cliff's Notes version. All right. So Thomas, what do you think with what these guys said? Should we keep going on the path we're going and hope that we just keep winning more converts, or should we become a little more overt and activist with the idea that Jake has said, you know, let's try to put a little pressure on some of the other channels to drop the AE? What do you think?
I absolutely agree. That's basically my whole philosophy for the last 2 years has been basically to put my boot down on the Gleason map and absolutely destroy it at every turn, because here's the thing. Flat Earth is a way for us to break the system and start a whole new world. But the problem is everyone is being drug in with a lie from the very beginning. So the whole foundation of our society is going to be based on this lie. This is not acceptable. This has to be stopped now. Anytime I see that Gleason come up, I will step on it. And I will present the evidence, because I'm not someone who just talks about it. I've got the math, I've got the numbers, and I'll give them to you. You know, and I've done it before on the shows. There's no mercy for that. And it's not just the Gleason map, it's any model that has been debunked. Once that model is done, it needs to be removed from our society. We are truth seekers. Now, this is what you know. It's flat, it's stationary, and it's intelligently designed. And that's pretty much it. You can have your opinions just like I have mine. I believe in the Diamond Pac-Man.
Yeah, and it's got short.
But it's just an opinion. When you're going out trying to convince people, when you're going to the public, don't be bringing that pizza pan model. When they ask you, well, what holds the water in, you don't know. When they ask you about how the sun works, you don't know. You know it rises in the east and it sets in the west, you're still working on. But there's plenty of facts that still show that the earth is flat. You can show reflections on water. You can show the telescope experiment where you can look super long distances, you know, past beyond the point of a curve, because every ball has to have a curve. I mean, there's all kinds of facts you can stick to. You don't have to sit there and say, well, this is what it is. But here's the thing I'd like to throw out here real quick for people who are continuing their research. We discovered that when was it? GPS was originally put in the public airports for public use, 1994. So our listeners need to ask themselves, okay, before they had these GPS systems, what did the pilots fly by? Because these pilots were flying nearly every inch of Earth. They weren't getting lost. So there is a real map out there. That's my point. It's not like there's, you know, we're never going to know and we're never going to be able to solve the mystery. Pilots are flying it every single day. So yeah, and they've been doing that before GPS. So Yeah, there is a real map out there. We need to press on, and whenever we see untruth like that, yeah, show no mercy to it. Stomp it, ridicule it, and embarrass it so that it's afraid to show its head. It should be shamed. Because I'll tell you what, I'm shamed every time I sit there and flip on one of these news broadcasts and I see a flat earther getting up there talking about, and the sun goes in a circle, see? And there's this big old ice wall that's guarded by the military. Come on, man. That's all fantasy stuff. You can't prove any of that. You can prove it's flat, you can prove it's stationary, and you can prove it's intelligently designed. That should be enough alone right there for a revolution. Just that information alone.
Hear, hear. Right there. And the revolution's already been televised. What the hell are you waiting for, right?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly my point. Exactly. So yeah,
that's awesome.
you don't need to know every single detail. You don't have
and you don't need to talk about stuff that you don't know anything about or can't prove. No. That's the bottom line.
That's the whole thing.
All you have to say is, well, I think the real question here is, and then just go back to talking about the proof that it's flat and that it's stationary and that it's possibly in whatever social, religio background you come from, you can insert whatever you want into how it came to be, but you don't even have to go there. Just if you're confident, with real confidence, not confidence on some, iconic, this is how it works because this is how I understand it. Just say, I think the real issue here is that we're not spinning. If we're not spinning, then we have no gravity. If we don't have any gravity, then, and you just go on from there and break down their ad hoc reverse engineered theories. Don't make up some of your own, just break theirs down. And that's really should take you where you want to go. All right. Does anybody have anything to add real quick? And we'll wrap this up.
No,
first of all, I want to thank Jake for going through hell, technology hell, to get here to join us today. And you are certainly invited back anytime you would like to jump back in here. And I'm sure that you will probably download and upload this to one of your channels. And you certainly have permission to do that because everything we record is community commons. No. Creative Commons. And so anyway, thank you for jumping in here with us. And thank you, Thomas. Again, this is now, I think you're over the 12-hour mark, dude.
Yeah.
with the flat, that's like, that gets you over the hump. Once you've done 12 hours, you're in like Flynn. And as always, thank you, Lawrence, for all the hard work and research and thinking that you always do, and follow your nose looking for things that go bump in the night with regards to flat earth. So I always appreciate that about you. And you were very quiet tonight too. You might even get a gold star for that, because you usually are just like making tea and taking the dog and the whole thing. So thank you for that tonight. Anybody have anything else? And
research
thanks for having me on. I had fun.
Good. I'm glad you joined us, and keep up your own thought processes, because you've come up with some good short segments that make sense to people quickly. And I did mean it about if you're interested in helping me make some short clips out of some of these old videos with good bits of information and making a compilation or 5-part series or our own flat earth clues, I would love to talk to you more about that, because you know how to do that, I think.
Yeah, it's really easy, actually.
Okay. All right. Well, it's not about easy. It's about time. I don't have any time, so I'm going to have to pay for somebody's
Really,
time.
yeah, it comes down to time.
Yeah.
It's definitely it.
As always, love your t-shirt, Homeless Tweaker Shelter t-shirt. And that's it. Thanks for joining us. Thanks to everyone in the chat. Special thanks to Jason Campbell, as always, for moderating the chat and being very open and kind about it, and only getting rid of people who deserve to be booted. So good night, everybody. Signing off, Flat Earth Conspiracy.